I'll leave it to the professionals.
Last by Bundy, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been goated when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Car era lore. Call me Levi playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like the Brown James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. Reviews not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum NFTs. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out
Started
the
off with a
boy.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Breaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in shoes. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, mighty, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. Had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the ride with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin, where we dive into all things crypto, NFTs, Web3, and cutting-edge technology. Remember, nothing here is financial advice. Early-stage tech can be exceptionally volatile and risky. So grab your coffee and join Cap and Steve for today's conversation.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome to Coffee with Captain GM. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't done so, do us a favor, drop us a GM in the chat down below. Then head up top, smash that like, repost, and bookmark on today's space. We greatly appreciate it. Warms up the algo, lets everyone know we're here, and does us a solid. We're live over in YouTube, as well as Abstract on my account today, and the X video feed. The best GMers drop the GMs and all those spots. We also have a stream drop mobile link that's pinned up top. I got one of those going now, and we'll do that about every 15 minutes throughout the show today. As always, I'm Captain. I'm my co-host, Steve. Never any financial advice on the show. Crypto's risky, NFT's risky. Meme coins exception risk and good as zero to most knows. Please don't put any money in. You can't afford to lose. And know that Steve and I likely hold tokens we talk about from time to time. We are not financial advisors. So not your financial advisors. Just join us for some fun information and education along the way. GM Steve, how you doing? We're going to play a game this morning. Where in the world is Steve K. Bark? Any guesses in the chat? Don't before he outs his. I think he might have leaked it last week, but Von Front must have missed that. So yeah, any guesses on where our Captain Steve is today? GM, sir.
GM, well, I'll give a clue. I am on very little sleep because I am in an undisclosed location on the West Coast. GM to everybody out there. Appreciate the GMs in the YouTube chat. Von Front and Mel, Bordo Saka, always out there in all the chats. Machiavelli, Big Bear, Von Front, always in every single one of the chats. Riz Brian, Teacher Katie, Mesh, Thomas out there back on the grind. Got Thomas on Ethos last week, so he's out there hitting the grind as well. I'm
back on my Ethos grind, Steve. I faded it forever. I now I'm like 2-day streak. I'm going to keep doing it. They got a snapshot. I think it's this Thursday or Friday, and I'm going to try to see if I can grind up at least to the next tier on my whatever that's called. Like my circle is not blue yet. I need to grind a few reviews and get a few more so I can get into the next tier before their snapshot.
I mean, honestly, like the streak is, I'm going to leave some reviews before the snapshot, a few more. I always have it open to leave a couple a week, but the like the alpha is just doing that review, that task thing that takes like 30 seconds. I mean, that's where it's at. But GM Dort, we got Digital Dad Machiavelli out in that chat as well. Clay OKC, nice win for OKC last night. Dobbins, Diablito, Teacher Katie also in that chat. Brick it all, Mike C, Big Bear, Joey Vowels out there this morning as well. Yeah, man, it's been an interesting. Give us a like, a retweet, a comment on the room. By the way, it is 5:05 in the morning, which means I've been up since like 4 in the morning. So any sort of love on the chat for those who are waking up and showing up to work is helpful as well. No, man, like it's been an interesting one, to be honest. Like, didn't get in until late last night because my son had his last soccer game of the season. They so had to have that, his last travel soccer game, then got on a plane helping my mom with something, so I had to like fly coast to coast to help her with it. And late last night, woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, so not a ton of sleep. And then this room is just like so poorly designed. It's just I don't know, like the desk, they have like a sunken sort of charger for the desk, so I can't put my MacBook charger in. I tried to like unplug something in the back, but the desk is blocking it, so I can't put the MacBook charger there either. So it's a mess. We're just getting through it. But yeah, I know we got LiveArt joining us today to talk a little Ape Chain Architects at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And yeah, man, just the edit that you got me going in on the weekend. I will say this, this whole like eagle flying edit skydiving thing, I hope this becomes a thing that people copy pasta prompts, because that was really, really fun.
You like it, huh? That was all shout out to Loki. I had the pleasure of joining them on their he does this NFT space on Sundays. And sat in last week and listened. They invited me back this week. And yeah, that was I woke up yesterday morning to that in my inbox. So yeah, it was a good prompt, I felt.
Yeah, the prompt, if you're looking at if you're on the YouTube or the streaming on X or streaming on Abstract, you can see like he had this whole prompt and kind of put what it was, and people just started copy pasting it. And I did it for myself as well as my ape. I know Cap did it for his ape as well. Saw it all over the timeline. It was pretty funny. But fun prompt. So I hope that takes off, because honestly, like, that's just good old fashioned fun. We're not Kaidoing, we're not wall chaining. I don't understand wall chain, by the way. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, I get the concept of it, but I was I was top 5 in wall chain for Ape Chain. Since then, I've had a couple of tweets really pop off about Ape Chain, and I've fallen back to number 11. On the Kaido pre-TGE leaderboard, I am currently number 32, and worthless, doesn't do anything for me. Like I've mentioned before, like people talk about like, they grind out Kaido. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I think it's been talking about OpenSea and Abstract has gotten me higher on the pre-TG leaderboard, but I noticed I was 32 on it. I don't know if Abstract's going to use Kaido. I don't know if OpenSea is going to use Kaido. So it's like I'm earning nothing, but it's kind of interesting. But it's like, it's pretty logical. It's like,
but you are. You're not earning nothing. You're ranking on leaderboards. Like that's where. What does that mean? You may not get anything from Abstract or OpenSea, but that's how you index. Like,
what do you mean index?
If there's another, if Kaido does anything else, I think they will. I don't think it's the end of Kaido rewards that aren't just third party. This is just pure speculation, but I think Kaido will drop future rewards just off their ecosystem, and being high on those leaderboards is absolutely how you get rewarded.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's so speculative. I guess my point is like, it doesn't get me anything now. Like, it's like I'm sitting here 32, top, almost top 30 on a pre-TGE leaderboard, because they track like certain things. Like I said, OpenSea and Abstract are probably the ones that get me up there. And it's, I don't know. I mean, it has opened my eyes that maybe I should, it's just, I don't want to turn my account into like grinding for like airdrops and grinding for rewards, but like part of me is like, I don't know, maybe
just talk about things you're interested in.
I'm not interested in a lot of the stuff. I gotta be honest, man. Like a lot of these test nets, like they're clunky. They don't work very well. The tech isn't very good. The stuff that they're doing isn't that interesting. Like, and I want to play around with some of the more of them. I'm not going to name names because I know there's some and I probably need to explore deeper. But like, I don't know, man. Like, maybe it's Polkadot, I guess I could say, but like, it's just I don't find a lot of these test nets to be particularly useful or interesting, and like have a lot of dApps and things I want to explore. And like, I'm just really bad at faking it. Like the OpenSea reward.
Yet?
What's that?
Have you set up your Infinex yet?
I still don't even understand how Infinex works. I sign up for an Infinex account. I don't see where I connect wallets. I don't see where I sign up an account, but like, I don't know. I that's probably a good like GM tweet to index on there because I don't know what Infinex is even at this point. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's like I can't fake it. Like it's like I should just probably just like because like the fact that I could get up to 32 by talking about things that I actually talk about, which is like I think OpenSea rewards is one of the underrated things that people aren't doing. Just and I don't know if it will matter. Like it might be a giant waste of my time, but it's like I can basically swap a token for $10, swap it back for $9 and 96 cents, and I get points. I can go buy an ape chain NFT and I get points. So it's like a lot of these things I buy, like I can just resell afterwards and equally get, or in the case of the Arena app, I switch it said buy an AVAX token, bought some Arena app, like doubled in price or something when I had it and I flipped it or whatever the price is. So it's like, I think it's an underrated thing. So I've talked about that. I organically talk about the things I'm doing on Abstract. Not really, not really, so it's like I talk about those things. That's organic. Part of me thinks I just need to fake it and just like, whatever, just like start earning some rewards because it's the game that's being played right now. And it's like, I can't bring myself to do it, but part of me is like, maybe I should. I don't know.
Thomas says, I love my Infinex wallet and play Bull Run every day. The key is interacting with the wallet every day. Meshma says, I feel the same, very hard because I don't care about most of the projects. Others, I figure out what they do or how to use. Yeah, I do not think anyone should be talking about things they're not interested in. Or no, I think it's worth going and checking out these protocols, probably create an account. You never know. Sometimes there's airdrops simply for existing, simply for connecting your wallet or creating an account. You never know what may come down the road. And you play around, you find one that you're interested in, do a little deeper, put out or on the flip side, say, hey, I explored this and I was bored. I don't think there's anything there. Good luck. Maybe I'm missing it, but I think they're, I think it's going to be short-lived post TGE. So, I just, there's so much going on. Like one that I've been enjoying lately is Noise. I think Noise is actually, going to be a really interesting platform. Noise quietly is powered by Kaido. They were ahead of Laudio in terms of leveraging the Kaido stack to build a protocol, and I think Noise is fun. I could see Noise having like an ongoing market. I think once, actually, I don't even know. It's like it's testnet right now, but you can still trade. Like it's paper money, and instead of trading token price, you're trading attention. So, for instance, let me just
pull it up because while you pull it up, it's funny you say this with the Noise thing. I actually, so one of the creators of Noise is actually a guy whose name is Luca, who had a Pudgy Penguin PFP for a while, and the Noise founder was actually one of the student entrepreneurs I spoke at USC last year, University of Southern California, and they had student entrepreneurs, and one of them was the guy who founded Noise, and he was talking about it at the time, and so I had met him back then, and so when I saw Noise pop up on the timeline, I'm like,
wait, when did you first meet him?
What's that? At USC.
When was that?
So that would have been, when did I speak at USC? Was that December, January? No, it was fall at some point. And yeah, he was talking about Noise and what he was building there, and it was it was funny.
That's wild. So I wonder, were they building prior to Kaido?
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, if you got the relationship, I'd love to have him on and chat deeper because I truly been enjoying the platform. You can see here, this is all fun money. You create your account, you get like 10,000 in fake UNoise or in Noise, in USDC, Noise USDC. And then you could open up longs or short on their attention.
And it's test net money. Just if you see Cap throwing around big cash here, it's test net.
But like I opened up this plasma long this morning. I'm like, well, plasma is going to be talked about all day today. This is easy to trade attention. And sure enough, I'm up on my paper money. I'm up $10,000 on my plasma long this morning. You know, I shorted Polymarket because they were getting talked about. This was the other day I opened up the short because they were getting talked about so much on the timeline because of the X partnership. I'm like, yeah, sure, that they're going to be talked about today. But next week, when there's no new news coming out of Polymarket, they're going to lose mind share. And so after playing around with this a little bit, I could see myself actually trading real dollars in this because I think part of our advantage here is we are in the weeds. We do have a pulse on these markets and not just like price action. We could speculate, but there's a lot of variables there that we can't control. I think it's easier to predict where attention and mind share goes than it is where price goes sometimes. And yeah, I've been enjoying it. I've not sent a tweet out or spoken about it at all yet, but just an example of, I think like this is the sort of stuff like there's probably going to be a token someday. People who've been exploring it are probably going to get bigger allocations than those who have never created a login. And I know some of these will be zero. And like you said, there is a lot. You can't do everything, but there is, I don't know. I feel like right now there's, and maybe it is InfoFi, maybe it is Kaido, but it feels like to me there's more to explore than I can remember in this space, where it's not just like, oh, we got 17 NFT mints coming up next week, but there's actually like new protocols being launched and different spin on things. Like there was a, I still don't even know if it's real or you from Kaido came out and said they weren't aware of this other one. It was like the derivative of Laudio came out over the weekend. Then you deleted his tweets. Maybe they are working with someone on the team. I don't know, but like forgetting just the pure attention shifting, I do think there's a lot of experimenting taking place right now. And yeah, not all of it's going to be good. Someone's going to suck and be boring or you're going to have no interest in, but I don't, most of it doesn't hurt to explore, experiment. You never know when you might play around with something that clicks. You're like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to use this. And then you end up getting rewarded with a big airdrop someday.
Yeah, Noise was an interesting one. It's funny. The founder, like I said, like I met him last fall, whenever that USC was. I'd have to look it up, but I met him then, and he was. It was funny because a bunch of people had their headshots, and then there was one pudgy penguin headshot, and this dude walks up with like a 20-some-year-old mullet, looking just like he. And I'm like, that's got to be the guy with the pudgy penguin headshot. And sure enough, it was him who was the founder of Noise. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like to your point. I started playing around on there early, then I stopped because when I got on Noise pretty early. You know, it wasn't as like robust with some of the options on there, so you didn't have a lot to choose from. So like I saw someone last week on there who like shorted Laudio, right, which was easy pick. To your point, like shorting Polymarket, easy pick. Longing Plasma, easy pick. So like to your point, like if I got back on there and paid attention, I think that stuff makes it a little bit easier and a little bit more predictable. It's interesting because to have a market, you have to have two sides. And it's almost like, you know, Polymarket in the sense of like, when you're using Polymarket, speaking of which, Polymarket Next, I think that happened after our show last week. That's a pretty big deal. I wonder if they're going to integrate it in. I don't know. Did you have, I don't know if you have, but before I get into that, my point being there has to be a buy and a sell side. And the whole point of Polymarket is like, you know, or myriad markets or any of these prediction markets is that it's like if sort of the conventional money's all on one side, like, you know, is there going to be, you know, I don't know. It was like, well, you know, Jerome Powell will be out by June. And it was obviously he wasn't going to be out before June. So it was like, you know, 98% smart money or whatever, or like, will there be a Solana ETF or a meme coin ETF or things like that? And these monies were like 98%. At some point, like the noise shorting and longing of attention is there has to be like, it's going to be harder to play that game as more people get involved because the market will get more intelligent. Like I think in testnet, it's like, oh, sure, I short Laudio. That's easy. What's shorting Laudio going to cost you, you know, versus the converse of like the potential downside of it, right? Does that make sense? Like, it's like right now the market is probably inefficient where you're like, oh yeah, I just long Plasma. But at some point, like you long plasma and you put $10,000 and you get like $6 versus like you put $10,000 and you get $10,000 or whatever. Like I think the market becomes more efficient, as I understand.
It should, yeah, it absolutely should become more efficient. I just don't think most of them will be that obvious. Or it's just timing, right? Like the real time to long plasma would have been not this morning, but last week when no one was talking about it, knowing that this was coming up today. Like it didn't. It's like this space, I think, is so like an insta society. It's so like, what's in it for me today, and we really collectively lack, what is it, foresight, like the ability to think ahead even like a week or two sometimes. It's like, I mean, Laudio is a perfect example. There's a lot of shit going on, but because that was the button of the week, you had 70% of the timeline talking about that. Plasma, which is arguably going to be the biggest ICO of the cycle, no one was talking about. And it's clearly much more impactful, much more material, much more meaningful than Laudio, but it wasn't until this week. And so people just, I do think, I mean, yes, those markets should get more efficient with time, but I think there could be something there. Someone, Diablo said, I don't know where to start with Mega ETH. Noise is one example. I don't have any invites right now. If I get any, I see a few people asking for invites. I'd gladly hand those out on the show here if I do get any more.
If people want quack invites, let me know. I got quack invites galore. So people want, although someone asked me for him and I went to add him, it was like Be Epic or something, and I couldn't find his @ when I was trying to add in the quack. So
yeah, if you need a quack invite, I think we both have some. We need your X account to add you there.
But you have to like register on it though, because Be Epic's account wouldn't work for me when I went to add him. Like it didn't show up in my list when I had to do the invite stack. It was weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like of all the stuff that's happening, I do think, and from my perspective, there's a few that are standing out in terms of attention now. And I think that leads to ongoing attention and likely positive price action within the ecosystems. So yeah, I mentioned Plasma. We haven't hit on it. It's a payment network. It's a blockchain being built for stable coins and transacting.
Is it related to Tether? I missed this and I saw a Legendary tweet about it. And me and somebody else in his mentions are like, I hadn't heard of that. And I'm like he mentioned 3 things that I heard of. I'm like, and I actually replied, I'm like, pretty sure that Legendary just made Plasma up to see if people are paying attention. And then like, all I hear is B-Check this morning talking about how bullish he is on it. I feel so out of the loop. So it's related to Tether in some way?
So like they're calling it the Tether blockchain. But so I think part of why it's getting the steam this morning is because they're launching on Echo, which is Kobe's fundraising platform. Think of like seed rounds and stuff for this. So they there's a $250 million cap on the deposits for this pre-sale. Expectations are it sells out pretty quickly and will be one of the major stablecoin platforms moving forward. That's about as deep as I've went with it. But beyond like the stablecoin stuff, that is only going to get deeper and deeper as the successful Circle is bringing a lot more eyeballs. I mean, stablecoins have already been pretty machines in the space. It's bringing a lot more eyeballs now with the successful Circle IPO. But beyond that, I think I'm biased. We're biased. We have Fluffles. We're friends of Bread. We're supporters of Mega ETH. But just go look at Ethos right now. Like the Ethos, they have one of their things you can vote on is bullish or bearish. And like if you compare Mega ETH to Monad, 2 pre-TGE, pre-launch, they're in just testnet modes right now. It's like 80-90% bullish for Mega ETH, 80-90% bearish for Monad.
Why do you think that is?
Because of how they're going about building it. Monad is like trying to run the 21 playbook and they've had like Discord grind games going on for years. They signed Thread Guy on a year or two ago, probably paid him $250,000. I don't even think he's still working for him anymore. So like, I think part of it's like an extended grind, extended farm, pre-launch that people are just sick of that shit. Mega ETH, on the other hand, is just more cool stuff, like whether it's Noise, it's a testnet dApp that people are actually using and experimenting with, whether it's, you've seen how many NFT collections, the bunnies have taken over the timeline, bad bunnies have taken over the timeline.
Biggest mistake. I faded those. I almost bought one of those, by the way, at like 0.2 or something. And I was like, nah, they've run so much, they're going to pull back. And then I almost bought one at 0.4. I'm like, nah, they've run so much, they're going to pull back. And I almost bought one at 0.48. And I'm like, nah, they've run. Like, there's one I had the buy button on at 0.48. Now they're like 0.6, 0.7. I just, sorry, keep going. But I actually agree with you. I was curious your point, but I actually fully agree with this. It's how they launch matters, right? Like they're, and by the way, Mackie,
I can tell you a single builder for Mona. I know they have them, but I couldn't tell you a single builder. Whereas Mega ETH, for instance, they've been doing these, these creator houses, and hey, you've already met one of the founders. Like, it's just, I think the loyalty amongst the builders building on Mega ETH is going to be sticky. I don't know if Monad will see the same thing. Like, sure, there's going to be people going to go there to grind TGE and farm it, but culture matters. And who's building on your chain, who's talking about it, all this stuff matters. And to me, like, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm not going to touch it, but I have almost no interest in Monad right now, and I'm really excited about Mega ETH. The other ones I'm really paying attention to is Hype. I've not been doing a lot of trading. I'm not big in like perps, but I that's a miss. That's a leak by not being on Hyperliquid. They've clearly won this cycle. They're going to be one of the winners of the cycle, no doubt in my mind. Like, they'd have to really fumble the ball to not. They'd have to have some sort of black swan event to not be considered one of the bigger winners of the cycle. And like, I think, like, yes, there's a lot more is going to be coming. It's so, for instance, this is just the decision I recently made, because I know if I spread myself too thin, I don't do a good job in any of it. And so I opted out of Sui. I said I was going to, like, I think I moved $600-700 over there, minted 3 packs. I'd keep whatever the epic pack or the egg or whatever I ripped was. Initially, I said, if I don't get any, I'm going to buy some Popkins with this. I thought about it. I think the Popkins are cool. I see people, but it's like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I feel like I should collect a set. That's what they're basically, I feel they're telegraphing, that there's going to be a token someday, and you're going to get a better allocation if you're collecting how they want you to collect. A set would be one of them. And I'm just like, man, do I want to put the time, energy, capital into collecting 9 or 10 of these things on a chain that I'm not using anything else over there for? And long story short, a week, I decided I didn't have the appetite for it. And I love the team. I love the team. It's just, I don't know how, like, chain exhaustion. I don't know if that's not the right word for it, but it's just like, I know it's easier now for like an end user to get on and do something. I don't really want to be buying things with a credit card. Like the Abstract Wallet, Glyph from Ape Chain, it's awesome. You can get in and it's very easy for a consumer. I'm at a point though, I don't necessarily want another 18 wallets. I don't really want to be like, could I go buy a Popkin with a credit card? Sure. And then what? Like, there's a lot of ecosystems. There's a lot to explore. And I genuinely said it. I thought I was going to go at least, I tried to get some Popkins. Had I ripped one, I would have kept it. I said, I'm going to buy one on secondary. And after I started thinking about it, it's like, do I want to hold a single Popkin or two on a chain that I'm not going to do anything else on? And I decided, for me, the answer is no. That's probably a miss, right? I'm probably leaving some gains on the table by not participating in that ecosystem. I don't want to.
Here's where I love this conversation, though. I love this conversation, and here's why. This is growth of crypto and NFTs and Web3 in such a beautiful way, because I had this realization as you're talking. Number one, I've been thinking a lot about my 2021 mistakes and how I need to learn from them. And there's certain things that I want to sell. For example, like, okay, I'm just going to put it like, oh man, I shouldn't even say this one. It's just going to get me in trouble. I'm not going to say it.
I'll say it. Maybe it's a different one, but I have no idea. Like, I know I'm the only reason I'm still holding a doodle is because I own 50% of it. If I had my whole doodle, I would have sold that. Like, I've just lost interest. Like that was the one. And I was the one talking about, oh, this is cool. They did the Lord of the Files thing. They have something there. It like fell flat for me to the point, like, I unfollowed the characters. Like, it was just annoying. It was just AI slop, and I didn't enjoy it. I was like, I'm not grinding this engagement game. And no offense to anyone who's doing it. It's just not for me. And so what Doodles is becoming is not something I want to actively participate in, at least not what I believe it to be today. I don't want to create characters. It's not what I want to do here. So I'm in the past, in 2020, I would have forced, I need to hold this because they're going to do something. It's going to run up. And now it's just like,
and maybe it will. But like,
but what it's doing, Steve, is because I haven't made a move on that doodle, I have no interest in going into the Popkins ecosystem. I'm already overwhelmed. I already hold too many. I'm part of too many communities I don't do anything with. And so part of it's like, it's a me thing. I need to cut some of this before I get deeper. And that's fine, right? Like, I'm obviously very deep in the ape ecosystem. I'm excited for other side and see what they turn on there. I don't know, man. I really come to this point where it's hard for me, even if I think something, this is probably going to be a positive flip, I'm really thinking twice if it's something I even want to use the brain space on. And I don't want to buy something just to hold it to flip it for more down the road.
This is a wonderful conversation. I actually love this conversation, and I hadn't thought about it until you brought it up this way this morning, so I'm glad you did. Is you mentioned you didn't buy Popkins. What did I do over the weekend? My family and I each picked, I haven't done mine yet. My Dawn picked a Popkin, my son picked a Popkin, my daughter picked a Popkin. They all wanted different species. And I probably should sell my doodle and get a Claynosaur because I like that ecosystem, and they feel like they're building towards things I get really excited about, things that are fun. I think there will be a token down the line. To your point, like, I should be trading everything I can to get my hands on a Pudgy Penguin. Why? Because I'm top 1% in abstract XP, and I'm leaving 50% on the table every single EXP week because I don't have a big Pudgy. I have a little Pudgy. So your point about it is like, not necessarily you're saying like, and I think people sometimes read things the wrong way. And I'm having this sort of like, not this click moment, but this moment of like, we have more things to explore now. And I think sometimes people read what you'll say and they'll be like, oh my God, he's fudding doodles, or he's fudding this, or he's fudding that. And the answer is no. Like, if you have a specific thing you're interested in, like, I'm very interested in what Claynos are building. They're building more what I thought Doodles was going to do for a long period of time. And I really like that. Like, Von Front and I talked about it, so we'll just say it. Like, it's not a knock on the Doodles team. Really smart team. Really good guys. But, like, I don't understand DreamNet. They haven't explained. It launched. The product doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not sure what their brand is. Again, like, this isn't a knock on it, but it's like Austin launched some sort of a podcast, which is awesome. I love seeing him interview good people, but I'm not, like, sure. So your BD person is spending...
Is it part of Doodles, or is he doing it like...
Yeah, it was launched from the... Like, if you go to the official Doodles account. So this is going to sound like... I don't want this to come across as like he shouldn't do this or anything like that, because obviously people can have multiple jobs and do multiple things. But it was like launched from the official Doodles account, and he interviewed Gino the Ghost, who, like, hilarious, amazing roast. I follow him on Instagram, and it's like the best. Like, he does these hilarious roasts, but it's like, I don't get how this. I'm not saying like it's like it just feels like discombobulated, where it was like, on one side, like Austin launching a podcast, great. He's a content creator. He's a smart guy. I love his insights. Doodles building DreamNet, great. Like, not necessarily my thing right now, and I don't quite understand it, but okay. Like, we've had him on the show. We've tried to talk it through, but it doesn't quite make sense. But, like, launching a like, the content that he's launching, OpenSea, Magic Eden, some of these bigger properties, sure, a video podcast talking about people who exist in the space and what they're doing makes sense. What does this have to do with, like, DreamNet and the mission and building the IP? I don't quite get it. And so, like, as I get more confused with Doodles, it's like, is that the place I should be? Or am I just hanging on to something that I loved a couple of years ago? Because I don't have that excitement and that joy that I used to get looking at my doodle anymore. And so it's like, that money is a lot of money that I could literally buy a Claynosaur with, or I could put towards eventually buying a big Pudgy with other things and moving towards the things. Because if I'm ranking top 32 on the Kaido leaderboard for pre-GGE primarily because of abstract and OpenSea, I should probably be doing more for abstract, period, to maximize what happens when that airdrop comes, instead of being wishy-washy and being all over the place. Like, I like to participate in everything, but it's like, I should be looking at paring things down that I'm not as interested in and paring things up that I am. And I think what you're saying there is, like, really logical in the sense of, like, you know, you saying, like, hey, I don't care about, or I'm not going to buy a single Popkin and wait for the Claynos airdrop and get $75 from it. I'm going to spend that money.
That's how it plays out, right? We know this. Right? If I go buy, I don't know what, $150 Popkin today, I'll probably get $75 when they go TG. Or I go put $1,500 in play, buy a set, and maybe I get $2,000 or $2,500. I'm making up numbers, but like, yeah, just the idea of like having one foot in. I feel anyways, we've reached a point where it's better to focus. I think these protocols are rewarding those that are really their brand ambassadors, those that go deep. I think we're seeing that on the awards, the leaderboards. And yeah, like you mentioned, abstract, it's perfectly fine. Like if there's a lot of people like that are deep in the ape ecosystem and all they do is ape chain stuff, perfectly fine. You're probably going to get rewarded very handsomely when they do whatever they're going to do with a other side token drop in there. Same thing with abstract. Like you could do just one and become like, if you think about the past 2 years, anyone who's had a big come up in the space, how many of them experienced that come up because they really became an expert inside of their a particular ecosystem versus a generalist, right? Yeah, Whale had to come up a few years ago being a generalist, but I think I would say
even
most.
NFTs, even the way he approached NFTs was more specific than a lot of the ways that we and everybody else approach NFTs, if that makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, back at that time, like he was more focused on NFTs than were most. Generalists back then might have been doing different things. He just went all in on NFTs early. You think about the one like Clemente and Jennifer and ICO that had their come up with Blast. They weren't out there talking about 18 different platforms. They went all in on one, and it ended up, rewarding them handsomely. So I think it's quality things you enjoy doing, and kind of where I'm at is if I'm going to add anything, I almost need to take one off the plate. I'm not exactly doing that, but that's kind of like, I'm just sharing kind of the thought process I went through this weekend is it's like, yeah, I guess if I really want to go play in the Popkins ecosystem, I should sell my doodle and just move versus, because if I don't, I'll come back up for air in 6 months and I just picked up another half dozen communities and I don't do anything in any of them because I'm just spread too thin. It's like Good Vibes Club. I hold a few assets. I don't do anything in that community. I mean, if I'm at an event or a conference, sure, I'd go hang out with them. I'd party. They're great guys, great community, but I'm not building any deeper relationships there. I just don't have enough hours in the day. And so that's where it's like, yeah, if I'm going to do anything else, I feel it needs to be a trade, not a net plus one.
Yeah. And I know we got Emlo here. I'll go to Emlo in a second, but to your point, like, it's a real clarity thinking of like, how much are you holding on something for the hope that the price goes up versus holding something or participating because you enjoy it? Because I know I like abstract. I know I like Ape Chain. I know that I like what OpenSea is doing with rewards, and I see the direction they're moving. Claynos is interesting to me. And you start to realize like where this focus lies. It's like, and maybe that's like gets down to the deep level of me not wanting to be on like Kaido, like grinding on like open ledger, because like I people are like, oh my, like I see, and I'm not saying I won't, I'm not saying it won't be interesting if I dig in, and I'm not saying like we won't do sponsorships with some of those people and start looking into them and actually decide we like it more. But yeah, it's a bizarre thing where it's like the amount of things where people are like, I just see people like saying like this ecosystem is the next big thing and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't know if I believe you or if you're grinding for an airdrop. And it's like there's enough things to be interested in that, like. And the funny part is like, I feel like people chase these short term, like, okay, like I'm suddenly interested. And again, Polkadot's probably actually one I would be interested in. So I should explore. People are like, oh, I'm suddenly interested in Polkadot. Like, unlike, I mean, Funky's really in there. He's doing Q&As in the Discord. That guy's in it to win it. But like, a lot of people are like, oh, like Polkadot's like the next big thing. And it's like, really, is it? Or are you trying to get like $700 every month from them and you're talking about them? And is that legit? And are you just creating another job for yourself? And the funny part about it is like, some of the people who are creating around things like Blast and other ones, like, that's great. They were doing well, but like, they actually enjoyed it and they weren't necessarily making money. In fact, a lot of times they were losing money on like a cryptos valleys or something. But the net upshoot of that is Jennifer gets hired by Blast to work on their video and creates an entire following. ICO Beast gets a fantasy top card and people are listening. Clemente finds his voice through creating this different type of content where he stood out in Blast and people noticed him. And like, I think the upshoot of concentrating on something you actually care about. And like, that's the funny part is like, like I've been doing like this long form writing recently. And I have this like incredibly large fear of putting my writing out into the wild because I don't think anybody's going to read it because it's so long. And it's like, whatever, but it's like, I like doing it. Who fucking cares? Put it out in the wild and put it out there and just start publishing it. You know, because I have these long pieces. I finished one on the plane last night, which was awesome. Like I really enjoyed it at, 30,000 feet. It's pretty interesting when you talk about the tech barrier of blockchain, and you can make an analogy of like, yeah, blockchain seems slow and clunky right now, but Wi-Fi dial-up was pretty slow and clunky, and now I'm writing an article at 30,000 feet connected to the internet, so time moves pretty quickly. But yeah, like I think there's a lot there. But let's Emlo's been waiting for a minute. Emlo, go ahead and get in here, GM.
GM. When you guys were talking about the doodles, it definitely came to my mind the thought that like you guys have definitely been supporters of that whole ecosystem for a while. I'm wondering if the people that were once CEO like Julian leaving the team, etc., is kind of what has led you to feel a little like not as involved in what's going on over there, A, and B, do you at all would you feel bad selling it considering the fact that they sponsored the show and you guys were consulting for them and other things like that?
So I consulted for them.
Kind of changed and they haven't really held up their end of the bargain of whatever that was, of making you feel whatever you wanted to feel, and have led more towards like AI slop. So maybe it doesn't really matter as much.
Good question. I'll go first, then I'll hand it to Steve because he actually did the consulting. They've never sponsored our show, so no, I wouldn't feel bad at all. Not because they didn't sponsor the show, but I just because I sell the asset doesn't mean I'm going to start fudding them or talking negatively about them. I'm still rooting for them. I still want the brand to succeed. To answer your question, yes, that was the turning point for me. Not that Julian left. It rubbed me the wrong way how the communications came out around it. And I can get past that, but that was kind of a turning point. I'm being honest. I'm being candid. I felt like Burnt Toast took some shots at Julian when they departed. I liked Julian. I thought he did an incredible job there. He was one of my favorite Web3 leaders. It made me question like what they're doing. And really, I haven't seen much since that's given me confidence that the team is better off today than they were with Julian on board. It's more so than him not being there is I had a pretty good vision or a pretty good idea of what their vision was previously. I don't so much anymore. And what I do think their vision is, I'm just personally not interested in. So it's just like they've grown, they've evolved, they've changed. It's not for me. It's not that I dislike them. I think the brand is awesome still. And I'm bullish AI agents. I have no interest in creating character agents inside of DreamNet. If I wanted to create an AI agent, I would just do it on X. I don't need DreamNet for that. Maybe I've got too small of a brain. I'm probably left curving this thing or mid curving this thing. I don't get DreamNet. I understand what they're attempting to do. I just don't think they're going to find product market fit with it. So it's got me bearish on DreamNet itself, very bullish on the Doodles brand. If DreamNet flops, I don't know where they go from there.
Yeah, Julian didn't get named CEO of Rolling Stone by accident right after he lost the job, right? It's like he's obviously knows what he's doing and he's pretty good. And again, I don't think it's like, I feel like there's like two things going on. I feel like the team is somewhat unleashed because they did I understand the direction. If the team felt in some way, shape, or form, he talked about the corporal abstractive era in his post, which I agree. I didn't think it was well done. I had a tweet about it at the time. The Doodles community, who I've been really kind with and I consulted, I met with a lot of them, were very unkind to me just because I said I didn't like the way that was done. I thought Julian deserved better. And I got a lot of hate for that, which is fine. I understand people are passionate. Like I almost sold them because I'm like, I don't think I'm welcome here anymore. But I get it. Like people feel that way. But like, I think the thing that I run into is like, it's now June. I believe Julian official announcement was in like December or January, sometime around that time frame. It is 6 months later. What major products have they rolled out since? Well, they rolled out Dude, and the only thing you could do with it was sell, which was awesome. I'm glad I got the money. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to like get that airdrop. They rolled out DreamNet, which people admittedly don't understand. There's like a confusing white paper. There's no explainer videos. There's no long things. I've seen Dude Lives talk about it a little bit, but outside of that, I haven't seen a lot. They had like a really good behind the scenes video that they had done with like Pocky and Dude Lives and some people with Burnt Toast. It was like more of that would help me understand who they are and what they're trying to build. But I don't think I understand it. And then, like I said, like, then I'm like, okay, so now they're doing like a podcast where they're interviewing Gino the Ghost. And like, again, like it's good. Austin is talented and smart or whatever, but I'm like, I don't understand. It feels it went from the most stable to the most chaotic. Go ahead.
I genuinely feel bad right now. I like everyone on that team. I like the Doodles brand. Like I saw Takita in the chat says, I'm sure that you have so much more to sell rather than sell your doodle. Yes. I'm just being brutally honest. I'm just being candid here, and we're authentic. And I don't know why I'm holding a doodle. Is this how I feel? I don't know why. Like, I don't know. I think the floor is still a little over 1 ETH. There's a lot I could put that capital to use. And
I have a different question. How do you feel if the floor went to 0.1 ETH? Now it's at 1 ETH. If it went to 0.1 ETH, would you still be happy holding it? Or you're already unhappy at 1 ETH, you'll be even more unhappy at 0.1 ETH.
So, for me,
that's part of it, right? Because I felt I should have sold when it ran up to, maybe not when it hit the 5 or 6 ETH, but pre-TGE, everything in my body was saying we should sell this thing. Again, if I was the sole holder, I would have sold it. I just didn't want to go through the headache of having to sell it to my partner on the thing or whatever. And it's like, I still hold this hope out. Like I want to see the thing succeed and do well. I don't, other than having the collectible, which is fine. I hold other collectibles. I'm just not in the mindset right now. I'm not looking to collect other digital collectibles is kind of where I'm at. I have enough digital collectibles in my life. I'm not looking for more. I'm at a point where if I'm going to collect,
I honestly like hate seeing you guys like this because you guys are some of the happiest people in NFT land. So if you guys are saying that this is how you're feeling with regards to the collection that I know that you guys did have a lot of love for, and I'm sure you still have a lot of love for, then maybe cutting your losses now and just like selling it and waiting for a project that does mean something to you comes. And I don't know, obviously like they're your assets, do whatever you want with them, but like it just pains me to hear you guys talking like this because I know how much you guys care about NFTs.
Yeah, it's not even just like, I mean, it's not even honestly like that, like super deep in the sense that you can get one doodle on the floor right now is like $2,700, right? And I've held it all the way up from, to the 13 ETH to below and all those other things. And to the point, and we'll go to Joey here in a second. So I see you out there, Joey, so don't worry, like we'll get you. I think the point I'm making here is like, not that I'm hating on them. Like, and this is the problem, is like anytime you have an opinion on something that isn't like super bullish, it's fun. And it's like,
I actually think you'll like them more after you sell it.
I actually think it's probably correct. That's a really insightful point. Cause it's like, I actually like Greenie is like one of my favorite people in Web3. I love DMing and talking to that guy.
If we don't, I feel like I'm setting myself up to be further let down. I don't see any future catalyst that's going to run the floor price north. I'm not holding it for a flip. But to Imlo's point, yeah, the floor runs to 0.1. Now I'm really kicking myself for not letting the thing fly at an ETH. I'm not saying that's going to happen either. I think that I hope they execute, but I'm just going to, and this isn't like, I'm not trying to PvP this. I'm just going to shoot as straight as humanly possible. If you have 1.25 ETH right now, Steve, and you got to buy an asset, and you have to hold it for 6 to 12 months, you can't sell it, but any dividends or airdrops, anything that might come in addition to it for holding that asset, you can keep, you can sell, do whatever you want with those. Are you buying a doodle or are you buying a Good Vibes Club?
Or a Klano or a Lil Pudgy or a...
Well, no, I like where I was going with it. So yeah, Little Pudgy would count too because they have abstract coming. That was my point, is like doodles, they've reached a point in their life cycle where they just did their choke and drop. I don't foresee any other future dividends, which is fine. I'm not saying they have to do this. I'm not saying they have utility. It's just like purely from a financial standpoint, I believe it's not the best use of funds to hold a passive asset that I'm not doing really anything else within the community when there's multiple other assets in the same price range that I believe there is going to be catalysts that would probably send the floor price up. They'll probably be, I believe there's going to be a TGE, probably with Klanos, probably with Good Vibes Club. We know there's one coming with abstract. So it's like, and oh, by the way, I stream on abstract every day. So by not having a Little Pudgy, I'm not getting multipliers there that I would. My doodle's not getting me any multipliers. Now, to be fair to them, I could sell this thing today. Next week, they turn on DreamNet and I miss out on thousands of dollars in dude because all I had to do was launch a character. It becomes a co-host on Coffee with Captain, and we just start, printing dude points. I get, but I don't have any confidence that that's actually happening. Maybe they could, but I also just like, I mean, I'm checking my words because I don't want this to come across as FUD. I don't want this to come across as attack on dudes. But yeah, it was like doing a few days of Lord of the Files. Like, oh man, this is not for me. DreamNet's not for me.
I think that's why I was saying if you would feel better after selling it, then I think that should tell you maybe what you're thinking in general as well. Because like, to me, if I'm ever holding an asset and I think that I will like that community more after I sell, then I personally would sell that asset because I don't like not being a supportive community member and all that other stuff. And listen, like you can always buy back in at 2 ETH, at 3 ETH, at 4 ETH. If they do change up all those catalysts and you missed out on a few ETH multiplier, okay, whatever, you can shoot some meme coins. And I know you're not so great at meme coins, but you could get a 5x. I know you could. Like, it's not that crazy.
But the thing that I don't want to this isn't about the financial aspect as much for me, even though that's part of it, right?
That's
It's
what
like,
I'm saying. It's not about the financial aspect.
It's because the point is like, I'm a big fan of like those people who are on that team, like truly like them, like worked with them a little bit, and I think that they're like wicked awesome. Like, I know people didn't like it. Like, I heard for the Doodles community wasn't a fan of the packs. I don't know. Maybe they went really hard on the packs, but it's like me spending a couple $100 over the course of, a few $100 max over the course of 6 months and getting to rip things with my kids and do like a blind box and go for chase items. Like, I know that they didn't need more wearables or whatever. That was fun to me, whether it was right or wrong. Them doing partnerships with large brands was fun to me. Like, that part was fun to me. And like, right now it's like, they got rid of somebody who I thought was really smart and good. And I understand, I don't know what happened behind the scenes there. They, launched their token, which I thought they did a tremendous job on how they allocated it. But the actual like mechanics of how the launch went, post-launch, it was like, a lot of people are like, there's nothing to do but sell. And so, people were saying like, look, this thing's got to be $150, $200 million market cap, and ended up at like 75 where I sold it, which was, less. So it was less than the cost of the doodle, which is fine. Like, again, no problem. I don't care about that, but like, and then like they've launched, a product in Dream that, or at least like started to talk about a product in Dream that I still don't understand and don't know when it's coming. So it's not a knock. It's just, I use this example and it's not the same, but it's like, I had friends on the Gutter Cat Gang team, or at least people who I like regularly interacted with. And I held that thing through like 10 ETH plus and thought about selling it and didn't. I sold it at an ETH and it was like, man, like it just wasn't. And I'm not saying they're the same, but it's like at some point you need to say, where do I want to focus my time and energy? And I'm not probably going to participate in DreamNet because it seems like it's a heavy participation barrier.
That's it. It does. I'm anticipating it being a heavy participation, at least daily. And this is me from someone that's been preaching that these Web3 companies need more gamified daily activities, right? Like I get the why, and it does need to be done. At the same time, I feel like there's a lot more stuff I'm excited about that just it fits my personality. For instance, I missed it. I didn't get any of the last rec drink drop. This shit really excites me, man. They're building a real world.
I got $100 for just buying. I bought 2 cases. I like the drinks. They're tasty. I got $100 and I earned towards C and I earned towards abstract points and I got $100 in rec this morning. I literally just picked up
why we're 2025? Why aren't we seeing more brands do this? Like we are going to have, by the way, carousels up top. If you've not yet smashed those reminders, please do us a favor, hit those. Garga joining us tomorrow, OSF joining us Friday. Big week with big special guests. Would love to have a full house for each and every one of them. So we will talk more about rec drinks. So not going to go into a tangent there, but between these real businesses being built, between we talk about these new chains and exploring these new dApps, talking about content. And the reality is it's a lot more profitable to talk about infrastructure, new dApps and protocols than it is to talk about NFT collections. So it's like, I go back to like, why? What's my why? Why am I holding this asset? And it's okay to hold things because you like to collect. I like the art. I like my doodle. I don't need it. And there's, because there's so many opportunities right now, like, honestly, like I should have sold the doodle last week and poured the full thing into plasma today. It's just going to be a better return. I feel like we should probably move on from the doodles. This is not an attack doodles. This is not a fun doodle session. It's just so happens that it's one that I hold that I've been thinking about. And because I haven't made a move on that is why I didn't move into Popkins this weekend. Nothing to do with, yes, certainly, I guess a little bit to do with capital, but much more so brain space, bandwidth. And I don't want to be diluting myself by buying an asset or holding an asset that I'm not maximizing because I'm not active with it or not doing what they want me to do with it. So if it's something I enjoy, I'll do it and I'll maximize it. If I'm not going to do the thing, I have to question, like, this asset, maybe it's worth 1 ETH today, but priced into that is, I'm going to earn these tokens by doing this thing. If I'm not doing the thing, I'm not earning the tokens, I should probably sell the asset.
Yeah, let's get Joey in here because I know we got to do daily market update more, and then we're gonna have hopefully LiveArt's should be coming on here pretty soon. But
they DM me they need like 5-10 minutes, so get a little extra time.
Awesome. All right, well that's great. So Joey, go ahead and get in here, GM.
GM guys, so I'm not going to talk about doodles. My comment is more general. I think this is maturation as a collector / investor. So in 2021, 2022, we didn't know what anybody was really building, right? Like we were like, okay, cool. So you've got some really cool art. You've got a really cool community. You guys are going to build something. Okay, let's give you a chance. And I kind of relate that to another collectible space, which is RWA collectibles, right? Like whether it's sneakers, whether it's Pokemon cards, etc. There are people all the time that will sell off parts of their collection because they're just no longer interested. Like you might have been a baseball card and Pokemon and One Piece collector. Now all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I don't really feel One Piece anymore. So you go sell off your One Piece collection because now you want to go buy more Pokemon cards, right? Like it's no different with what we're doing. It's no different than what you're doing right now. You've held these assets that you believed you wanted to collect and you wanted to be a part of. And now all of a sudden you realize that it's not what you want anymore. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the collector in you, right? Is like, you just said it, Cap. You have no reason to continue to collect more digital art when you have the digital art that you already want. And we all know, you've talked about this many times, you want a squiggle, you want an autoglyph, you want all these other
not only
pieces
that,
of art.
When you said the difference between collecting and investing, I don't even want any of those things right now. I'm in much more of an investing mindset than I am in a collecting mindset. And it's probably will ebb and flow. But right now, because I think we're at a phase where we're going to see some of these protocols pop, where maybe we see another Hyperliquid, maybe things do just explode on Mega ETH. Maybe Plasma today ends up becoming the next major stable coin, or we see financial results similar to Circle or Tether. I just, versus collecting art, which is perfectly fine, I'd rather new investments. I'm much more interested in investing. And what really excites me is the same thing that excited me in 2021 was the opportunity to get in early, support startups that I'm passionate about, root for, and have a vested interest. Now, as we see more friendly regulatory environment, I think there's a better opportunity as an investor to look at things, whether it's pre-TGE or something like Rec brands, where they've built this token flywheel into a real world product. That stuff really excites me. Like, I'm genuinely interested in that sort of stuff versus going and buying a several $1,000 digital collectible. I'd much rather put that same money into an investment where I get and hey, that could be an NFT. My Fluffle on Mega ETH, it's an investment, right? But that's a very different NFT than is a squid.
No, and I agree with you 100%. And that's the second part of what I was saying is, maturing as a collector in what you want to actually collect, and then selling off what you don't to continue to collect the things you want. And then from the investment perspective, like you said, if you don't vibe with what these businesses are now becoming. So, for example, since you guys talked about doodles, if you're an ape holder and you're like, you know what? I really just don't vibe with other side. It's not my thing. I have no reason to hold an ape. If I just want to go to live events, I can literally hold a mutant for a tenth of the price or whatever it is. Maybe you go sell your ape. Or, it may be a bad example because mutants still get access to other side. But the point is that, like, if there's opportunities for you to get out of what you don't think is something you will actually participate in, to then go participate in something you will, it's not bad. It's not because you don't agree. It's not because you think they're going to fail or because you want them to fail. It's just not what you want. And that's normal in everyday life. We go through that. In this space, it's kind of vilified as like, FUD, but it doesn't really make much sense. Like if I sell my stock in Disney because I don't think that, putting out more Marvel movies is going to make them more successful, but I buy stock in Apple because I believe Apple Vision Pro is the future. It's not because I'm fudding Disney and I think Disney's going to go out of business. It's just because I vibe more with Apple Vision Pro's the future with Apple Vision Pro than I do with more Marvel movies, right? Like, how's that different than doing that here? Maybe it's a bad example or not.
No, I see the point. Honestly, like what you just described, by the way, let me know if there's any issues because I had to I think I'm back now, but my hotel Wi-Fi kicked off. But like the point that you made there, that's like what happened to me with NBA Top Shot. Like I genuinely like basketball. I genuinely like sports. I thought NBA Top Shot was a really cool platform. I collected a bunch of moments on NBA Top Shot and sets and things. And at some point I hit this inflection point where I'm like, my attention is starting to focus elsewhere. I started getting involved with apes and more NFT ecosystems. I started writing the book. I wasn't as interested anymore. Top Shot started, making it really complicated with like locking moments and doing this with moments and that with moments. So all I did was sell off all my moments except the ones I wanted, which were some Cavs moments, some LeBron James moments, some moments for players I liked. It happens. Like sometimes you just lose your passion for collecting something. And when we use the doodles again, it's funny because we spent that long on it. It wasn't meant to FUD them to the point or say like, oh, they're bad or whatever. There's some people who are very excited and I'm really jazzed for that community. It's just as products start to evolve, what apes do is is interesting to me, right? It's like, I like Ape Fest. I like the entrepreneur aspect. I like Ape Chain. I like the fact that they're built, working with Glyph to bring people on through Ape Chain. Like I like the focus of the DAO. I like the direction they're moving. That's great. We'll talk more about that tomorrow with Gargo. Participating deep in building AI agents to create like side IP. And I know it's not just around Doodles, but partially around the Doodles brand. It's not as exciting to me. And like, it's okay to say, maybe this isn't for me, but I'm still like pulling for them and I still want to root for them and I still want it to be awesome. I mean, we had Luca on the show, I don't know how many times before I ever owned a Pudgy or a little Pudgy or a big Pudgy of any sort, but it was, because we supported what they were doing and we thought it was awesome. I think you can do that. And I think in this space, to your point, sometimes it's vilified to be like, oh, you don't even own this. You don't even own this. And it's like, well, yeah, but I also can say, I think it's really cool that they're doing what they're doing. I just don't fully support or I don't fully see myself engaging in this. And like, if this can go in the hands of someone who is, great. So I agree. It's like, I'm not going to floor it. I'm going to, I have a fire doodle. If I put it up for sale, it's going to be above floor and we'll see what happens with it. But should I, Cap talks about Mega ETH. Should I be having one of the bad buns, instead? Should I be having a Cleanosaur instead? Because that is more the direction of like the sort of things that I really enjoy. I just don't know. And I feel somewhat like in general, like looking at a lot of my, go ahead, Joey.
Do you think if these assets weren't so expensive and so volatile, our opinions of them would be different when it comes to holding them?
Go ahead.
I'll answer. Yeah. Cap had some breaking news or whatever. I'll say.
Did you hear my question, Steve, or no?
I did hear your question. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The price does matter in that sense. That's where financialization does come into play because there is a factor of like, you can support a brand. Like I can support Disney without being part of their like magical club that's $10,000 a month to get like special access to parks. I can be a fan of Disney, similarly, I can be a fan of any NFT brand without holding something that's worth thousands of dollars that, you know, I could put into multiple other, like I said, I'm now top 30, 26 or something on the pre-TG leaderboard on Kaido. I can be putting time, effort, and money towards stuff like that instead. And so it's not all about the financial aspect, although it's impossible not to merge those things, and we should be intellectually honest about that. I don't know. So I think the financial aspect comes into play in the sense of, like, if you're tying money up in something, it's the same concept of if you didn't buy something, if you don't sell something, it's the equivalent of buying it that day because you're choosing to hold it instead of doing something else with it. But Cap, I know we got a couple hands. Go ahead.
Last thing I'll say, Cap, I didn't buy a Popkin for the same reason. And I'd be curious how many other people didn't, because they don't participate on Sui. And it's like, do I really want to go own something on Sui? That'd be a great poll for you to put out, or Steve maybe, on like how many people didn't buy a Popkin because they don't participate on the Sui blockchain.
Cap, go ahead. You got I saw you perk up a little bit there.
Well, I'm not getting in the plasma sale. It took it 5 minutes to sell out 500 million in deposits.
I didn't even know that was happening right now. I should have gotten involved in that. That would have been a good one. We should have pushed all the coffee with Captain Treasure.
You gotta set it would have taken you a bit. You got to go through KYC and stuff prior to. But I guess it's 95% full, but I'm on the wrong. I'm in the wrong country right now to do it. So down bad.
Got it. Let's do this. Before we go to hands, Cap, let's do our ape chain update, market update, and then let's swing it over. We'll go Big Bull, then we'll go to Jashaka, and then we'll maybe do potentially more, or we could say more, for 9:30 afterwards, but we'll hit on that. But let's do the ape chain update. I'll kick it your way.
The daily market update straight to your brain. Powered by ApeCoin, no hype, just gains. Moving on ape chain, we bring in the heat. NFT spends alpha, never miss a beat. Ape chain on top, now we bringing the flex. The home of NFTs, figures now what's next. Come on, my head top, but you want the time and chop off for one time.
And it is time for the daily market update powered by ApeCoin, the home of NFTs. ApeChain has it all, bringing culture, fun, and community to the blockchain. Dive in and see why ApeChain is on top. And by the way, I apologize if, because of the hotel, anytime I switch to my notes, check it out. I get this flash on my face. I notice there's a little delay on it. I'm not messing around on browsers. I am literally going to my notes where my live reads are, because learned on the plane, by the way, on a dark plane flying at night, I learned that you cannot put Google Docs into dark mode, which is a huge product flaw, that I can't put Google Docs into dark mode. But Cap, I'll let you get to the update.
Yes, we're going to start with majors here and looking at our Coinbase 50. Bitcoin up 2% on the day, 107,806. ETH up to $2,544, also up 2%. XRP flat at $2.27. Solana up 4% to 155.68. Doge and Cardano also up 1% as well. All the positive movement ran on news of the China-US meeting in London today. I believe that's right. Not sure what time, but I think there's a big meeting in London, and markets responding well. We're going to skip over runes. Memes. Murad does it once again. Apparently grinding on TikTok with really aggressive videos is working. SPX leading the way, up 16% on the day, even outpacing Fartcoin. Green across the board, though, in memes today. The market's all excited about the China-US meeting. And up to NFTs, talking those doodles, up 0.76% on the day. 50 ETH in volume. Floor sits at 1.07. Mutants down 1% to 2.04. Horse Club, an ape chain collection with a massive amount of volume. I would look into that. Something tells me that's probably a little bit of wash trading there, would be my guess. 20,000 sales on a collection I haven't heard of yet. But yeah, Horse Club there.
Is it verified? Because there was an OpenSea voyage to pick up an ape chain verified NFT collection, so it's possible that it ran up on that.
Could be. A lot of volume though. So, and I've heard some complaints of others complaining about this. Hey, about this maybe fake volume in some of these collections that people seem to be abusing. Not sure if that's one or not. Another one with a lot of volume over there, Ape Leon. I'll do some deeper diving because I apologize if this.
Those are apes that look like they're Elon Musk's with ape traits. I saw those yesterday, so not for me, but apparently people are having fun with it.
Yeah, that many sales, 35,000 sales, I'm guessing that someone is trying to make their numbers look good, would be my guess. I don't think there's that many. Maybe I'm wrong. I shouldn't speculate like that without doing the deep dive, but my gut tells me that those two are, some inflated numbers on the transaction volume side. Crypto agents, this launched on Base, I believe. Says maybe it was ETH mainnet. This one is one I had my eyes on, did not make a move. Now that it's down 11% of the day, I might take a look at today. They're doing some, we talk about, actually, Steve, talking about agents and NFTs. I thought we would see this a lot earlier than now, like a smart agent NFT collection. I know we both picked up some of the Think agents and what they're doing with Souls over there. But these crypto agents are, my understanding, pretty solid dev. They are essentially smart agents that are an NFT. Might be worth a deeper dive, but they've done, leading the way with volume here, 67 sales, 0.1392 is the floor there. And that is our our Ape Chain daily market update. Ape Chain on top. Steve, back to you.
Yeah, no, it is interesting to for sure to sort of follow some of these collections and what they're doing. To your point about the the trading volume, it's like, we see people do that. We do a little cook in the books, it seems like, for some of these people. So, something to be paying attention to for sure. Don't get caught.
And that did that thing fully in less than 10 minutes. That plasma pre-sale fully allocated. So, congratulations, GG to everyone got in. I would encourage, if you have not checked out Echo yet, I encourage you to do so. This was the first time I'd actually set up my account. You got to go through a KYC. You do need to be accredited, but it's like a soft acknowledgement. I don't think they're running you through third parties. You just have to acknowledge that you hit the required marks. If that works, or if you assuming you qualify there. But yeah, $500 million in minutes is pretty impressive. Although I think 250 of that was today. I think it was a $250 million. So 250 had already been spoken for, and then another 250 deposited today via Echo.
Got it. Interesting. Let's that's one that, like, again, like I didn't hear about till over the weekend, and maybe it would have been cool to get in on. I'm sure I'll miss a cook, but it is what it is. Let's do this. We got 3 hands up on stage. So before, we got a guest coming up here in a little bit. Let's go in this order. Let's get Big Bull in here first. Big Bull GM.
GM, can you hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is a good conversation you're having. I mean, opportunity cost of time. I was thinking about this, like the value of a punk versus a BAYC, right? And that, I would say, that's a big point, because do you want something which is, requires a lot of involvement, right? And I think this is it's a big discussion. I think that's what we see punks, holding in, since the bear market, where people are like, okay, I don't want to be active every day. I want to be maybe once a month be active on this. And so that's, it's interesting from a positioning point of view, right? And then another big problem in the NFT space, you're talking about collecting stuff, right? Investment grade versus consumption grade. But if you're collecting, you're thinking more like investment grade. So the cost of holding, when I have art and stuff, I keep it in storage. If it's an expensive piece, it's worth the cost to hold it. Once they get below a certain price, it's kind of interesting, because in the art market, you're effectively taxed on holding, right? But you're not taxed on holding your NFT or your collection of NFTs. So then people just keep holding them longer, right? And so, because you don't have to pay for storage, they don't degrade, and it becomes a challenge. So I think it's kind of interesting if the NFT collection, even in the future, has a project that you have a cost of holding, and somehow that holding goes into a central, it's effectively a tax to continue building it, right? Which is kind of, that in a way, that's what secondary markets are. But if you never have any secondaries, or they become lower and lower, then you don't even get that, right? And the last thing is, there was a good chat, and you're having this chat with Gaga tomorrow. So one of the things he mentioned when we had that conversation the other day that Rita held was talking about is it the end of an era of foundations, not just DAOs, particularly foundations? So the kind of the wrapper structures that DAOs run in. And I just put something up into the nest about this because I did read the article by A16Z, which is quite detailed. But I think my summary point is, DAOs, do they work, or would maybe they only work for things which are truly mission based, like soul fulfilling missions, whether it's religion, whether it's political, whether it's it's a charity you deeply care about, like those kind of things. You can get the people in, right? Because they're aligned on this mission. Otherwise, if we're all mercenaries and we're basically here to effectively, everyone who's involved wants to be here to make money. If we don't have an alignment on mission, then perhaps DAOs can't work. And I'm not gonna. You can read what I wrote, but that's just a kind of a
I largely agree with that sentiment. I think probably good conversation for tomorrow, to your point, because I know we got live art up here and I want to get to these other couple hands, but I actually think I had a conversation with someone at A16Z on Friday about this exact subject, unrelated to the article, actually. I don't know when the article came out. It might have come out before that, but it was about DAOs and how they work. So I want to save that because I have a lot of deep thoughts on that.
Miles Jennings. Miles Jennings is the guy there who wrote that.
Yeah, Miles is a great guy. Love Miles. I actually really like Miles a lot. I think Miles is I think he does really great work. And I had a conversation with someone specifically. I think Miles is just absolutely like, he's somebody we should actually probably get on the show, or I should interview at some point, because he's somebody who I think thinks of things in a very unique and interesting way. So really big fan of Miles. But yeah, I agree. I actually largely TLDRs. I think we're finding product market fit. DAOs are an experiment, and I think there's soulbound ones. I think what Wolves DAO does is interesting. I think one-to-ones. I think being able to cancel them like a employee badge type thing might make sense if people leave a DAO. But I want to put a pin in that one. But I'm glad you brought it up because I think it's a good conversation for potentially the lead into Garga tomorrow.
Good primer for tomorrow's combo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think they have a place, but I think as a foundation running a business, I don't think I think that failed. And that's my opinion. I think they absolutely could be utilized. There's certainly valuable things they can do, but yeah, I don't think it's running businesses.
I don't think failed's the word. I think you're trying to get a triangle through a square, right? So it's failed is implying that people just didn't try hard enough, right? I think it's more about saying, like what you just said there, product market fit. Like, is it the right structure to get to the results you want? And is it the right structure to get the results you want? Like you just said, you're making a decision every day to hold something if you don't sell, right? Today, if you don't sell your BTC at 107, you've made a decision that you think it's worth 107. So with these changes that are happening in the kind of the way the regulations, so given the current regulations, is it the best thing to get the biggest success? So I think the argument of saying it failed, I find that a little negative, because it did get Ape Chain to happen. It did get you guys funded. It did get a whole bunch of stuff to happen, right? So it's not, I wouldn't say it's a failure. I just think you need to be,
I don't want to derail the conversation. We do got to get to our guests here. I think they failed as the experiment. I don't like if someone said they're going to start a business and run the business as a DAO, I wouldn't have any interest in that today. I think there was enough experimenting over the last few years. I just don't think it's the best structure to scale a new business. Maybe at some point, a different level of maturity, it might work. But yeah, I think the experiment doesn't mean like everything was a failure, but I don't think it had anything to do with like effort or people not working hard. I just like the results weren't there. Like it's, if we're talking about like a result focus, like it didn't work. Steve, I apologize. I'm getting the Duke is like, he's doing the leg humping thing that give me his sign. He really needs to use the bathroom. So I'm going to connect from my other account so I can listen in, but do you mind taking at least the introing our guest here, and I'll be back in a few minutes?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's speed run hands. We got Jashaka, we got Loki, just because I know that, and LiveArt. I promise we'll get to you in the next couple of minutes, but let's get Jashaka in here because I know you've been waiting for a hot minute, and then we will play our intro in. New song, you're going to want to say, new jingle update for Ape Chain Architects. So excited for that one. But Jashaka, go ahead and get in here, GM.
GM, hope you can hear me. Captain Steve, hope you're having a great day. Well, kind of on that whole discussion, I was on a cool NFT space on Sunday by Loki. I see him here. Speaking about this, that you kind of have to be a collector and a trader at the same time. They work together. Collectors support projects, but you can't just keep buying and buying and buying. So it's healthy to consolidate, take profit, reinvest whenever you see projects getting tapped out, or you don't think you don't have that much interest in them, but you've made your money, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you reinvest in other projects that you support. But more interestingly, what they were talking about was, how to break into Web 2, where collectible market shares are like 100 times bigger than Web 2. Pop Mart has grown to $33 billion. And just wondering what your take is on that.
I'm not as familiar with Pop Mart, but I think your take that you put earlier is true. It's like, I think that there is an emotional tie in this space. And like, just as I, again, going back to the Doodles example, just as I quote tweeted and was like, hey, I think Julian deserved better here. Like, they could have graciously let him go instead of kind of like taking a parting shot. Similarly, it's like, and the Doodles community got very mad at me, and a lot of people were, there was DMs, there was some trash talk, there were some people who were saying some pretty nice stuff, and it's like, I've been as much of a supporter in this. My wife's PFP is a Doodle. I've been in since Mint. I've gone to every event. I love the team. I've had them on my show dozens of times. Like, so it's like, but I understand people have an emotional tie-in, and so I think part of what makes it hard is there's a combination of the emotional tie-in of the community and where you feel guilty. There's an emotional tie-in to the team who you get to know in Web3 a little bit better. And there's an emotional tie-in, frankly, to your NFT. I love that NFT and I enjoy it. But at what point, if the product is moving in a different direction, do I find something different? So that's the sort of, that's sort of the direction I look at it as. So, appreciate those thoughts. Want to kick it over to Loki. Loki, go ahead and get in here. GM Loki.
Hey, GM guys, GM. I missed the first part of the show. I wanted to tap in on focus on 2-3 ecosystem. Also, you mentioned crypto agents before people getting scammed. So the original collection is on Ethereum, but there are some scam collection on Base, and this is actually a current. It's an issue that we've seen with like the latest new mints and collections. So guys, be aware of this. I hope they're gonna fix this. But there's always a scam collection on Base, no matter where the fuck they mint. Regarding collectors, okay, the conversation is too long. I'm not gonna top there. I just feel like now we have InfoFi, Kaido, but even before that, you have like so many people that can just type whatever they want without having any knowledge, and this just create a timeline filled with general basic information, if not misinformation. So you're saying focus on 2-3 ecosystem. Yes, absolutely, that should be the norm. Like, you cannot talk of some NFT collection if you don't hold one. If you're not a community member, you get like the knowledge inside the Discord, all the info, all the feedback, all the sentiment. That should be the basic, but because now it's incentivized to basically which is just say random things on the timeline. We are not getting this. These are like a huge problem. I don't think it's a huge problem just for crypto. It's probably going to be, it depends what the social media will look like, but if it's a text-based social media, it's kind of a problem because it's just too easy to create content, and we have even bots, blah, blah, blah. We need some sort of curation.
Yeah, I think it's it's funny you say that. Like, that's one of the things that's happened on my timeline is there is a noisy slop that happens to the Kaido. It's funny because Kaido has helped lift certain people up and get them to explore certain ecosystems. I look at Mackie on Mega ETH and how he's crushing it, and he's genuinely interested. And he seems genuinely excited versus I think some of the one people just are like, okay, can I get ChatGPT to write me 14 tweets about what this thing is on the Kaido leaderboard and then I can grab it. And it's turned a little bit into some slop as far as like, it's this combination of that. And the other thing I'll just say, like, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because it's a whole other conversation, is I think some of these financialized mechanisms, I'll use Fantasy Top as an example. I complained about this at the time of Fantasy Top. It's still running strong. People have entire DM groups for their Fantasy Top cards. And like somebody in a Fantasy Top card can have the most mid take ever that is actually not based in reality about something they don't know. And their entire group, it nerf proofs their tweet. They like, they retweet, they comment. If I'm coming into this space, someone with, and again, I'm not knocking anybody specifically in particular, but like, you know, if somebody has a Fantasy Top card and they put out a take that's not particularly good, someone who doesn't know any better is like, wow, that thing did 30,000 impressions and has all these comments. This person must be really smart. It happens because people are financially incentivized. And this is my issue with Fantasy Top, is that you had this incentivization for people to push things that maybe were based on what they could get from a fantasy league from their creator perspective. So it's like the idea that if I have a fantasy basketball team, if I could make Steph Curry make more threes because he's on my team, of course I'd do that. And I think people are doing that, and I'm not knocking them for that perspective, but it's like, you know, it is a worrisome trend where it's like somebody coming in, there's a lot of noise to sift through, even for me on the timeline. And like, I'll see someone who's super bullish on something, and then I'll see them just immediately sell and never talk about it again after a Kaido airdrop. It's like, oh, it was mercenary capital. So I think that noise is becoming a problem, and that becomes my worry with all of these sort of InfoFi / other things. So I think InfoFi I'm probably going to write a longer article on InfoFi because I think it has an opportunity. I was very skeptical at first, but I'm enjoying it a little bit more. And I think the product is going to evolve, but I think at the moment, it's a little bit sketchy. So I think good perspective, Loki. Appreciate that. I think deeper conversation about the slop that is coming through on the timeline for sure to be had there. That said, let's do this. I'm going to bring Caps alt up to stage as he's taking out his Duke, because Duke is a puppy. Duke's just a little puppy. And we're going to swing over into our Ape Chain Architects segment. And it is time for our Ape Chain Architects segment, brought to you by our friends over at Ape Chain. ApeCoin is the home of NFTs. Ape Chain has it all, bringing fun, culture, and community to the blockchain. Dive in and see why Ape Chain is on top. And conversation here early with live art. Want to get you up here. Excited to have you on the show. Appreciate everybody at the Ape Chain helping us get connected here. First of all, GM, feel free to get in with any thoughts on the conversation this morning before we get into what you're doing with Ape Chain. Any thoughts on any part of the conversation this morning? I know we ran a little long there.
GM, well, I really thought the whole sort of like our timelines being crowded with all of the different yapping that is happening is very interesting. You know, I didn't think about it until now, but it does make sense. It's like, how does that is starting to sway, you know, the different ways that people who are actually like kind of actively looking at projects and making decisions based on that is interesting, because it, you know, the noise does influence. So hot take over there.
Yeah, no, it's and I think about it, like when I came into the space, I had to hunt and peck myself to figure out exactly what I was doing. And I think for a lot of people, like, it's like, what happens if I have a friend who comes into the space, like, who maybe doesn't have the guidance, or I can't, you know, guide them the way I would like to. And they start seeing the timeline and they're like, okay, like that doesn't seem to be working very well. Like they're seeing like, oh my God, this loud coin must be the most important thing ever. And then nobody talks about it, and then they get burned on it. So I think that there is some financial dangers that go along with that. And like I said, like the Fantasy Top thing's a whole nother ball game, where it's like, you know, somebody can tweet like, you know, there's a period of time where people could just tweet like NFTs and that's it. And then all of a sudden it's like 50,000 in volume because there's a Fantasy Top tournament going on. It's not necessarily as valuable, and you got to curate your own timeline, but I think it makes it a lot harder. And it's a much more difficult place to navigate when those financial tie-ins come. And I suppose there's a version of that with NFTs to begin with anyway, where it's like, look, if somebody has a, you know, Bored Ape NFT, they're probably going to talk positively about Bored Apes. So probably a persistent problem we've had. But not quite what you're working on. So let's talk a little bit about your connection with Ape. First of all, I'd love to know, if you're comfortable, who's behind the LiveArt account, and maybe a little bit of background on yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Louisa. I am the head of project delivery at LiveArt. So I work very closely with builders, creators, and our kind of engineering and product teams to bring RWAs on chain in very, very creative ways. So my background is particularly coming from the art world. So working with auction houses and galleries with kind of Web2 traditional art and collectors. And then I joined LiveArt. I've been with LiveArt almost for 5 years. And ever since, we've been trying to sort of develop the art asset class further by bringing more transparency to it. Now we're bringing it on chain. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, talk about that, because I think art, like legitimate art, is one of the strong use cases for RWAs. Like because you have the ability to potentially, like, some people, for people who don't know, with art, sometimes people own art, sometimes art sits in a warehouse and it just transfers hands and it's a accumulation of wealth and it's an asset. So there's a lot of different use cases for art. Sometimes it's just about the provenance of knowing what you own, right? The ability to have a piece of art and maybe an NFC chip in it. In fact, there are companies that have done this where you tap it and it's like, hey, this is legitimately owned. I own the NFT. I know what it is. It ties to my wallet. And when that transfers hands, you're able to do just the same thing. So talk a little bit about your perspective first on art on chain and the actual real world assets of art and how they can translate to chain. Hit on that to begin with, because I think people maybe don't understand how much of an opportunity and what a big market that is.
Yes, definitely. And it's a great point to bring up for the beginning. So just in terms of art in itself, it's a $65 billion market, like usually every year. That's how much, art is trading. But there's even more art in terms of the asset class in itself, right? The asset class in itself is trillions of dollars, but most of these pieces are just in storage units, in free ports, not moving, not doing anything, just kind of sitting there. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because art is very difficult to maneuver, right? So it's very tricky to get specialists into your warehouse, evaluate the art, bring it to auction, make it travel. That traveling, with art, shipping it adds a lot of risk because something could happen to it. So it's a very kind of valuable asset class, and art asset will retain and grow its value over time. It's recession proof as well. However, it doesn't trade with much velocity because it's kind of this very stiff asset. So what we are trying to do, right, is we're trying to bring this asset on chain. And how are we doing that? Well, look, the LiveArt team, the core founding team of LiveArt it's a team that comes from the art world, right? So they were, had good exits with top auction houses like Christie's. They held leadership roles in the executive level roles within these companies. So they understand very well how art operates. We have a team that is also specifically focused on identifying good asset opportunities and performing those acquisitions with verified sellers, so that every single thing that joins the LiveArt kind of RWA portfolio is, a good quality asset with good potential and good value.
Yeah, it's interesting. It makes the process better, right? I mean, it makes it where it is a more efficient process. It's an area where it's like sometimes we insert the blockchain in places it doesn't need to be inserted. And it's like, hey, a database works or other functionalities work. But this is one where it tangibly improves the actual process of the business. So I think that's super interesting in kind of how you're talking about it. Before we talk a little more 8chain on it, can you give us more details? Are there other RWAs that you're particularly interested? Is it a hyper focus on art? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we actually wanted to start with art because of the team, right? Like, it's an asset that we know very, very well. But we are definitely interested in just general assets that have a good value that we think could benefit from being on chain because they will be more liquid and trade with a higher velocity. So we're looking at cars, watches, jewelry, wines and spirits, and I think not talked about enough, but we're also kind of in the horizon looking at real estate. So, I think art is a strong stepping stone and is kind of like where we come from. But we are definitely looking at the opportunity as this really big sort of, I don't know, this big broad set of verticals and categories that we can add to the live art ecosystem as we grow.
It's interesting you say that. You talk about real estate, you talk about art. These are like, big categories that have massive opportunity that make a lot of sense in the blockchain through different levels of how they can transfer and how they can verify ownership and how they can work. What's the reaction you've gotten from the art world as it relates to this? Because I think, sometimes it's funny. I host spaces with artists, particularly with, MetaGood and On-Chain Monkey and Oshura regularly. And sometimes an artist comes in and it just clicks for them. And sometimes artists say, that's not art. What I do is art, which is hilarious because at one time, Jackson Pollock was just splattering and then it became art. At one point, abstract art was not art. And so what is the reaction from the art world when it comes to the blockchain that you've heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I think the art world and the traditional art market has operated in a very specific way for a very, very long period of time, like hundreds of years. And it obviously it's evolved, but more or less the relationships and the dynamics, they don't tend to change drastically. So I think that it's definitely something that feels a little bit counterintuitive within the art world, specifically because their core business, right, is they focus on connecting a buyer with a seller and making a deal happen between them. And, that's what institutionalized, that's also the way it looks like with auction houses, or connecting, artists with opportunities, which is what you get in the primary market with galleries. So I think this is definitely something, I would say maybe a little bit of a highbrow look right now at its early stages. But there's definitely people, I would say, within the art world who think it's an interesting opportunity. And, those people are particularly sellers and collectors, because they, on a day-to-day basis or pretty regularly encounter these blockers of being able to actually move and sell and transact with their assets.
Yeah, I am, so we one of our sponsors here is BZ. I don't know if you're familiar with BZ, but they've taken a similar approach of RWAs, or tokenizing real world assets, primarily in the collectibles. So Pokemon and sports cards and sneakers and that sort of stuff, then storing them in a Brinks vault. And for me, just the friction it's reduced in buying and selling and transacting. I got to imagine similar in the world of art, whereas sure, people buy art to put it on their walls, but I think if they're buying an investment and not necessarily putting it on their wall, just the ability to safely, securely store this art, to transact it without having to pick, pack, and ship that art. Is that also part of your model on from like the holding and storing?
Yeah, exactly. It's like these assets become by default community-owned assets, right? Because they're fractionalized, and then members of the community acquire these fractions. And LiveArt, holds the piece. It's securely stored in a fine art facility, insured. And, I think something that a nuance, right, within collecting art is a very expensive sport. It's a very expensive thing to do. One, you have to find, a seller that you trust, that it's selling you something that is real. And then once you're able to do that, depending on whether you buy it on an auction house or with a gallery, you'll pay different fees for acquiring that, right? So let's say your fee in the primary market, it could be zero or very, very low because they have a special deal with the artist. But in an auction house, it can be anywhere between 15 to 27% on the price that you paid for the piece. And then after you pay that, 15 to 27%, you also have to pay for insurance and you have to pay for shipping. And that can quickly, add up of like, you're looking at maybe a 40% extra cost that you're paying on just acquiring one piece of artwork.
I see, and not to jump ahead here, you're probably going to get to this as well, but the buyout process, I've got put up here. So one of the things, you must declare a fair total purchase price. How is that determined? If let's say a holder, someone who owns a fraction, a shard, a fraction of the art, they decide they want to do the buyout, they want to purchase the entire piece. How is the fair purchase price determined?
Yeah, so we would do it. It depends at what stage of this happens, right? Like, let's say if it was like we launch in 2 or 3 days after we launch this new RWA, somebody wanted to buy out the piece, then we will coordinate. The price probably wouldn't have like moved that drastically from what we have listed. So we will work with them. And sorry, just to back up a little bit, like just in general with our current fractionalization model, we offer different discounts according to the volume of purchased of fractions. So we will probably work directly with that buyer for a special price for buying out the entire asset. Once that happens, if there had been already a purchase for the fractions, they will have to buy out obviously all of the holders. And then, they will own the complete work. We will probably ship it to them because I'm sure they will want to have the artwork. And we will go on from there. Now, if this happened, let's say like very close, like, I don't know, a few months later and everything had already been purchased, we would have to assess, is that the best possible exit for the artwork? Depending on who the majority holder is for that asset, we will have to check within the community if that is something that we want, that the majority of the holders want to do. And then we will proceed and sell. And then, people will get their exit. We've had one successful exit before with a Superman by Andy Warhol print. That gave people 3 different options to exit. So one was USDC, the other one was split between our token and USDC, and the other one was all tokens. So that's sort of
I was going to ask where that return came from. So in this case, this 484% annualized net return, that was a result of the piece actually selling, of someone doing a buyout. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, it's exactly. And the way that's calculated is within the exit price, but also within the time. So it happened relatively quickly.
Very cool. Very cool. One of the things, and sorry to just jump in here, Steve, I noticed on your the offerings page, I guess, we've got we'll jump into, we'll talk about this this balloon dog here in a second, the Jeff Koons piece, and I think there's an event at NFT NYC we're going to want to hit on. But where can you expand on that a little bit in terms of the chains? Like I saw, the Banksy piece is on Berachain. There's a Takashi Murakami piece on Berachain. Then we got Ape Chain and another Berachain there. Where, I guess, starting with Berachain, why Berachain? And then I'm going to ask the same question with Ape Chain, and just maybe a even higher level, your thoughts on offering these across multiple chains as opposed to just one.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, I would say that at our core, we are a multi-chain platform. So for example, you will see the Yayoi Kusama asset that is deployed across, I believe, 7 different chains. And I think it is something that we like to do for each asset, just because we want to keep it as accessible as possible to as many communities as possible. With each community that we do, like a launch of an asset, we develop a custom campaign depending on what's the culture within that ecosystem, what are things that they like, what are sort of incentives that people within that community are enjoying. So we try to craft kind of a good value proposition for each. we'd love to kind of also deploy our other assets on ApeChain, but we've just been focusing on the Balloon Dog Blue for now, but we will definitely be probably launching our other assets on ApeChain. I would say the thing that we look for to decide, which is the kind of Genesis event chain, it just really depends on the conversations that we're having. So, for example, we've been speaking with ApeChain for a long time before we actually decided to launch and which asset. And we kind of, we talk with ApeChain, we take a look at the community, what the culture is like, what asset will be a really good fit. And we found this kind of Jeff Koons blue balloon dog, and we thought, it was a very good fit within ApeChain, not only because it's blue, but also because it's sort of like an iconic contemporary art symbol that is very well known and is kind of really playful, but also highly valuable.
Talk about your target market a little bit as you go to reach out to these people, because I think like one of the cool parts about Web3 and things like this is I don't have access to the art market, but I can get educated, I get interested. How much of it is, sort of that purpose-driven thing to say, let's get more people interested in art and educated on art. And by the way, that idea of, look, I mean, one of the things about NFTs that makes them great, or one of the things about, sort of like this fractionalization is, if you own, like an analogy I make sometimes is like, if you, rent your apartment, or if you rent your house, you're probably not going to upgrade the kitchen. You're probably not going to put a pool in the backyard. You're probably not going to, change your bathroom and make it better. But when you own your house, you're incentivized to do that. You can enjoy the benefits. It increases the value down the line. You become invested in it. And I think with this, it's not just, oh, this is a cool platform, but that fractionalization makes people more invested in it. So as part of the mission there, just, hey, we want people to get more excited about art. We want people to get more involved with art. And this lets them have some skin in the game and get pretty excited about it.
Yes, exactly. And, I think something that was very important to us when we were thinking of how to do fractionalization, because there's been already many iterations of this, right? Of like putting an artwork on chain and selling fractions. But we wanted to make it a more accessible experience, if that makes sense. So in price, but also in sort of like interacting, like understanding what this object is and why it's important and who the artist is, because even though probably a lot of people have heard Jeff Koons before, our assumption is that a lot of people have not, and they should learn more about them as they would learn more about a new NFT project or a new meme coin or a new project that is launching in Web3. So for us, kind of like framing it as not only this asset that you get a portion of, it's also like a fun experience that has different challenges, that has different incentives, different reward pools that you can unlock, so that, it's more fun. It's like one of the cool things about why you're doing, there's many reasons why you're doing things on chain, but one of the great opportunities you have is like you can do these very dynamic, fun experiences.
That's great. And like, is this a thing where it's like, so I think the goal, like we've seen what ApeChain did with their Glyph wallet and how they got people minting F1 posters. So I think is the goal ultimately, like right now you can start with a lot of the crypto native people who are super comfortable in doing that. But I think the goal ultimately long-term is then you can expand this out to thousands, millions. Like you talked about the art market and the space it represents. I don't know. And maybe this is more of a statement than a question, but I think it's very cool to think about the fact that, we talk about diversifications of assets, and it's only probably in the past 20 years we've seen more people getting into things like stocks who are in the average, the average human being becomes more approachable with, online brokerages. It feels like this is the opportunity to expand art as a portfolio piece to the average everyday person, where 15.8 to get in, you're talking about $8, $9 to actually own a fractional piece of something that's pretty awesome that would be completely unobtainable. So, long term, it feels like the sky is the limit when it comes to this, right?
Exactly. And right now, people are also getting a lot of value back because we are also you're getting tokens. We have not, just for full disclosure, we haven't TGE'd yet, but it is going to happen really, really, really soon. So it's like you're getting tokens back. You're also getting different badges. We design a collectible to go along with the project as well that people can claim. So you're getting a lot of, and you get the fraction, right? So you're getting a lot of different things back for your money. And I mean, for us, kind of at this point, sort of, sky's the limit, and the next stage is creating the secondary market for them so that people can start, trading them. We want to also create different sort of DeFi mechanisms and features for lending, borrowing, and we want to bring more sort of Web2 users to this product. So there's a lot of things also in the horizon to be excited about when you're holding one of these fractions.
Can you help educate us today? What does that look like in TradArt in terms of borrowing against their assets? Is there much of a market today? Do people tap into that liquidity often? I'm just
well, in the traditional art market, they do, right? In the traditional art market, it is something that people, they use their art and their collections as collateral for loans. It's a very common practice, and people with big collections, they definitely do it. Because, it's a very safe asset, it's like art, the chances of art losing value is kind of low, unless you buy like a high risk asset, which is like an emerging artist or some artist that doesn't have a market. But if you're focusing on artists that have multi-billion-dollar market caps, the chances of that the value of that piece going down or going to zero is pretty low.
Makes sense. What about you mentioned DeFi and tapping into some of these mechanics on chain? I noticed with each of the each fraction you buy, each shard you buy, you get art token or art points. What is there anything you could expand on art today? What might that token be used for?
Yeah, so that the token is primarily going to be the LiveArt token for our platform. So for the utility for the token will be primarily for staking, and the value that the token will have. But I think once we're going to publish our tokenomics pretty soon, and I think that will have kind of more detailed information on that.
Very cool.
Makes sense.
Oh, go ahead, Cap.
You got it.
I was going to say, look, I mean, this is super interesting. And this is one of those ones where we talk a lot on this show about what are the real applications of this technology, not just the, buy this to stake this to get this. And in the end, it's just this constant sort of game of staying in front of the, what is the next thing that you're trying to do. It's not this race you're trying to run. This is an awesome application of what the blockchain can do. And so appreciate your leadership. Anything that maybe we didn't ask you related to LiveArt that you want to make sure we got across or wanted to get across to our audience this morning?
Well, I would say that we're really happy to be on ApeChain. One of the reasons why we thought we would be a good match is because culture is very strong on ApeChain, and this experience is a lot more than just kind of a frivolous buy a fraction and goodbye. We really are trying to build a community. We are trying to build a well-rounded experience and give you a lot of rewards. So very happy to be here. And I guess the last thing that I would say is if you listened in the space and you've decided to acquire a fraction, join our Discord. If you go to liveart.io, you will see on the top right corner our kind of Discord logo, and you can click it. It'll take you to our community, and just let us know that you were in the space, you acquired a fraction, and you'll get like a 2x multiplier for your art token rewards. Yeah, so just let us know so that we can keep track of it. And yeah, thank you so much for having us. This was an amazing space.
No, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. And appreciate the education. I feel like I've learned more, not just about live art, but trad art as well. Was I mistaken? Is there an event in New York that you're going to be participating in? What is there anything we need to know about that, about NFT NYC, or am I confusing things?
I think it maybe, I'm not sure we'll be in NFT NYC, but yeah.
Is there a gallery there? For some reason I was thinking this Blue Dog was it like we could see it in New York. Am I crazy?
Well, we were speaking with the Ape Chain team about doing sort of like an activation with kind of the visualization of the sculpture. It's not the work is in Europe, so it's located in Switzerland. So to bring it over here is a little risky, just because it's a sculpture and it's a big trip. So
completely understood.
Yeah.
My apologies for confusing things there. I don't know my brain not working or something. I thought I saw they were doing some of it with live art in New York, but completely understood. Not probably not worth the risk of bringing expensive art just for a DGen party, but. No, really enjoyed the conversation. I'm probably going to go pick up a shard or two. As I mentioned, Steve, like while I may be hitting like my max in terms of digital collectibles in this form of just PFP NFTs, I am really intrigued, interested, and bullish on this sort of stuff where blockchain tech is enhancing something that exists in the world today. It's not just throwing something on chain to drop a token or to, try to raise some funds. It's actually it's solving a problem. It's making, in this case, both the product and how that product is transacted. It's just making it a better product, or at least giving additional options, right? Like it's not the end all be all, but this is something I do think just makes sense to exist. And you said, I appreciate LiveArt's leadership and pushing the art space forward.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us this morning. And yeah, welcome on any time, or if you have any big news or anything like that, because this is the type of stuff that we love and we love to talk about. So, this is the stuff that gives me life in this space, to see people who say, how can this technology improve an existing industry? Not, can we bolt this technology on for pure financial reasons? So thanks for your leadership and thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having us. And I hope, I'll stay in and keep listening in.
Right on. We'll see you in the Discord. Cap, I'm gonna buy some fractional shares. I think this is cool. Like, this is the type of thing that I enjoy. This is the type of thing that gets me excited. I mean, again, I'll just out myself on this one. I was talking to Scott on Friday about some stuff related to, applications, and I brought up Claynosaurs. And he was floored in the fact that like Claynosaurs are so novel in the way that they're doing things. And they created a mechanic that could not exist without NFTs and how they did their pack rip. I talked about rec brands and the wave marketing they're doing and how well that's working. Was actually looking for a third example. Maybe we use this one, a third example of something interesting with the blockchain that is sort of like novel and exists because of the blockchain. And these are the things that get me up in the morning in this space. And I feel like the corner we're turning is, we're seeing this sort of, the market being segmented into, look, it was funny. I responded to a Legendary post the other day about gotten a good debate with Stats, where Legendary was like, look, meme coins aren't bringing in the masses. And Stats was like, look, I don't see this on my timeline. I'm like, I still do. And he was like, all right, well, tag him. And I actually I put in a tweet from Thread Guy where he's talking to somebody on his stream, and I was like, look, like, I bet you're going to hear like 10 versions of meme coins are bringing the masses in on this stream. And Thread Guy actually responded, which I thought his response was perfectly understandable, but it was also, and I respect both of them, love both those guys. But my point was, like, there's going to be some variations of coin this and, so digital attention economy is the future and all these other things. The average person doesn't want to gamble $250 that they lose in 6 seconds. Like, Keith Fishing was actually having a debate with me about the sports gambling market. And I'm like, I don't think the sports gambling market is coming in as full force into meme coins as you think. It's very different in the sense that, one, there are a small percentage of sports gamblers that are the Billy Betts type people who want to actually beat the market and, keep track of 15 lines and find the juice that this one's a half point different. Then there are people like me and others who are going to say, I'm not trying to beat the market. I'm trying to put $5, or some people have a larger budget, to watch a game. When you bet on a game, you get to watch the game. You get 4 hours of entertainment, 3 hours of entertainment towards your bet. And at the end, win or lose, you get the entertainment. Usually the line's pretty efficient, so you're close at the end no matter what. Like NFL games, they all come down to the end, right? A meme coin, not a lot of people in the sports gambling world are going to say, you know what? Let me toss $250 on a meme coin instead of on that game that I feel confident about, where I feel like I have an edge, and it's gone 6 seconds later, or it's now worth $100. Like, and that was my argument, is that wasn't the case, right? But that market exists, and I'm glad people enjoy it. It's not for me. This market, where we're having real world applications of what this tech does, that is the place that I like to live. And that is the place I like to exist. Now, I like to gamble a little bit. Like, we all live on a spectrum of like, we like this a little bit, this a little bit, this a little bit, this a little bit. My majority interest is in how NFTs and Web3 can enhance existing industries. And then the gambling stuff's kind of fun to do sometimes. And the financial aspect is cool to have tied in there. I just, I love stuff like this morning, and the conversations like this morning are the stuff that gets me up and keeps me less nihilistic about this space.
Yeah, I'm with you and agree wholeheartedly on the topic of, bless you, on gambling. I would be remiss if we didn't at least touch on our caps clutch market parlay of the day. Ran cold over the weekend. I actually fired an extra shot, and kid you not, like both parlays, we hit 1 of 2, and the second game we lost by one run. So we were close, haven't hit on one yet. I'm going to think through the flow and the process a little bit, because I'm betting on baseball for these parlays. It's not best to do it early in the morning, because it's not like NBA where there's going to be surprise scratches that often, and we should know who the pitchers are, but there still is, we don't have all the information as we get closer to lineup lock or the game's first pitch, what the lineups are, and just, you can make better, you've got more information. Always best to bet when you have all the information. So I think what I may do, instead of making the bet on the show, I may do it in the afternoon, evening. And then during the segment tomorrow, we'll review the bet. If it won, that's when we'll pick our winner. So previously, we've been saying if you retweeted like Friday show, if we hit, you'd be in the running to cash out that parlay. Steve, I think what we'll do is, let's say that parlay today hits, then tomorrow when we do the caps clutch market parlay of the day, that's when we'll pick a winner for the winning result. Does that make sense? So we basically, someone retweets tomorrow's show. If we win tonight, whoever retweets tomorrow's show is in the running to win that cash out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it's just rolling it into the next day and getting the most efficient opportunity.
And not that it's part of our partnership or sponsorship. I talk about using things we like and enjoy, and big fan of Simple Farmer and clutch markets. And over the weekend, I thought we'd get into it. Maybe we'll hit on a little bit tomorrow. The Minotaurs Coliseum. Dude, talking about blockchain tech making existing things better. I remain an incredible bull on on-chain gaming. It just makes sense. It's just a better way to play these games, to transact. Like, if you miss it, I'll just go real quick, high level. First of all, what I love, the tie into clutch markets is this Minotaur Coliseum. It was a tournament. So there was a community tournament, and then there was an individual tournament where, like, I matched up against Grateful Ape in the first round. We have our Minotaurs. They battled, and you basically, they have their metadata. They've got traits. So it's like attack and defense and magic. And then you also you had 2 things you pick before each battle, like a stance, basically. Do you want a bonus on offense? You want a bonus on defense? You want a magic bonus? So a little bit of, I guess, skill involved there in terms of what you selected. And then it was RNG. And then after the match, it spit out a story that explained the match, was AI generated, pretty cool story. But the cool part, why I think it's, like, what on-chain gaming unlocks is, I lost my first round. Grateful won. The horns of my Minotaur are now in Grateful's wallet. So, like, we've talked about the idea of like awards and accomplishments, like having that on-chain forever. It's like, think about like every Halo that you've won, that you and your brother have. Like, imagine if you had not just like your stats, but like you actually had some something from each of those matches that you won from an opponent, or like it just, my brain went, wow, this is where I thought on-chain gaming would get to. It's just unlocking. You can do so much more with these games if you actually own the assets. And yeah, I thought it was really well done. Hat tip to James and Dutchy, who organized the thing. And then where Clutch Market's out of the fun. And I think there's a big opportunity for this is you could go bet on those games. Like I bet on myself against Grateful, I lost. But you can, whether it's a gaming competition or like the ability to create these niche markets about anything is just like, it adds some fun, it adds some excitement. So yeah, we had some fun gambling on the game. The game itself, like the on-chain mechanics, I thought were pretty stellar. I think you could, like, where you could take that with so many more games is just gets me excited. And yeah, big fan of what Clutch is building over there. They're seeing a lot of early results and traction too, in terms of volume, and that is real volume and real transactions on their end. But yeah, we will good luck us. We're gonna hit one tonight, and then tomorrow someone is gonna take home our the payout on that Clutch's or Cap's Clutch Market parlay of the day.
Love it. I mean, look, good luck on that for sure. Always rooting for the audience to get paid out. We're going to be doing some things moving forward, including that, as well as some other things in about a month to do some major sort of giveaways alongside our Ape Chain sponsorship, which we're excited about. But yeah, man, that said, let me do this just because I realize we went long on some other things. I'm going to do the quick more you know on ENS. We did not get to the poly market discussion, so maybe we kick this through to tomorrow. But I think we had a lot of good discussions today. So I'm going to do my best to find my tab on my computer here that has, in fact, I'm just going to pull it up in a second tab, and we will live to do a little bit of a more you know on pulling it up, stalling. Good. Let's hit it.
While Steve's playing this.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just say, go hit that reminder up top. I repinned the carousel. We got Garga tomorrow, stuff on Friday. We'd love Full House. So if you haven't done that yet, hit the reminders up top while Steve plays this in.
The more you know, brought to you by ENS.
It's time for the more you know, brought to you by our friends at ENS, and we're going to talk a little bit about Twitter and Polymarket, or I should say X and Polymarket combining forces, I guess, because I have some thoughts on. I think it's worth discussing what the overlays on that potentially look like, because I think it's certainly an interesting partnership. But Polymarket launched in 2020, if you're not familiar, as a crypto-powered prediction markets where people could bet real money on real-world events. Didn't know it was that old, by the way, but it definitely didn't truly explode until 2024 in the U.S. election cycle. By October 2024, Polymarket was clearing over $1 billion in monthly volume. In total, more than $3.3 billion wagered on the platform in 2024 alone, driven largely by political markets. One single market predicting the outcome of the presidential race saw over $750 million in bets. And it wasn't just activity, it was accuracy. The odds on Polymarket showed Biden dropping out of the race weeks before most media outlets picked it up. And the shifts in Trump versus Harris odds reflected in the real world events faster than traditional polling or models. The growth came despite regulatory headwinds, and after a $1.4 million fine from the CFTC in 2022, Polymarket moved offshore and blocked U.S. users. In late 2024, its founders' devices were seized as part of an ongoing investigation, but it doesn't matter. Polymarket marches on. Proved that its rise proved one thing: when real money is on, markets can surface insights faster and sometimes better than the experts. And that was the More You Know, brought to you by ENS. ENS does more than you know, from being one name for all chains to allowing you to launch decentralized websites. Security, interoperability, and ease of use. Go to ens.domain, secure your ENS domain today. Yeah, I didn't know Polymarket was that old, and I forgot that they were basically trying to be forced out of business by the previous administration. Now,
I forgot about that. You said I remember now, but I had forgotten that they were on Gensler was going after him.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's classic. It's a classic example of, regulation getting a little bit too heavy-handed. And, it's like this idea of protecting people from themselves. Like, I get it to a degree, but like something like that is like you're just trying to stop something that people want to use because the word crypto was tied to it.
What do you think comes of the X partnership? Like, how do you see that playing out?
That's what I was going to say. So, again, maybe longer conversation on it tomorrow. Although I know we have a lot to cover then, but it's like, is there a world where like Polymarket lines are live on X attached to like, you know, tweets and information? You're able to bet live on them. Like, I just think the opportunity is so big to have, like,
That's what I think it's something to do with like, it's not just a collaboration. I think we'll see
integration
markets in live in X baked into the app somehow.
Which is that part is more dangerous to me than Polymarket as a platform, because that's like, I remember when live betting got introduced to whatever betting app I was using at the time, and I lost my friggin', you know, the shirt on my back live betting, right? I mean, I don't bet more than like $3, $4, $5 here and there, but I'm like, oh, you mean I can bet on certain outcomes on a particular drive of a football team? That's an easy bet. And then it's like, of course, you know, sometimes you feel like the miracle of like, you're like, oh, bet Ohio State to score a touchdown on this drive, and they score and you cash your bet and you're happy. But it's like, man, it's the market will get you at some point. It's sort of live betting is a variation of, I don't know if you played Death.Fun on Abstract. If you haven't, don't, because it seems so obvious and easy until you just start losing, you know, a few in a row with some bad luck. And I thought I had cracked the system and had this like system to make money on it, but not great.
Last thing, setting up for tomorrow. I don't know if he's still out there. I've heard of this from a few people. I meant to pin it up. I guess I didn't do it earlier. But I saw Raheem sent out the ETH ETF chart. I said in the war room this morning, getting that feeling of like the balloon underwater, the beach ball underwater type feeling. Feels as if things are really heating up, even before like the run this morning on the China US stuff. This ETH, it's 15 days of positive inflows, 15 consecutive days totaling 840 million. I mean, not trying to be like Captain Obvious, but I think we see all that institutional money flowing to ETH. It's like the price action seems to kind of lag for whatever reason. Like I said before, I thought we were going to see the media tour from Larry Fink and crew. BlackRock did sell a bunch of Bitcoin and moved it into ETH. We're seeing now positive ETF flows for 15 consecutive days. I don't want to jinx it, but I think we may actually get an ETH season, Steve.
I hope so. And I'm like kind of like levered in ETH with NFTs, obviously, and I have some ETH, you know, staked here, there, and everywhere. It's possible. I mean, it seems like it's been like, you know, this inevitability at some point. I mean, I own some in my 401, or not my 401k, my IRA. Like, so I would love to see ETH ETFs and ETH take a shot. But like, I think at some point, being the world's supercomputer and powering the next, you know, being the infrastructure layer of the internet moving forward, like there is a powerful story there, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like there's so many, it could be digital oil. It could be the world's supercomputer. It could be digital silver. Like there's a bunch of ways they can position this thing. Bitcoin feels like it is officially tipped, right? Like it feels like, you know, knock on wood, obviously recessions and things could happen, but it feels like that 100K mark seems to always have this resistance now in Bitcoin. Like we talked about it on this show, like when it was still in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and we're like, at one point, it's probably going to hit that mental point of 100K, and it's going to be like, oh shoot, like
feels like we're starting to get close to that, like distancing from 100K, to where I kid you not. What time here? Like 7 minutes ago, my in real life friend group, where we talk about mostly stocks, I'm the crypto guy, asks any suggestions on crypto funds to add to the portfolio. Like it's happening. Like I think the combination of Bitcoin, what Sailor's doing, and what I say what Sailor's doing, it's not just MicroStrategy, it's creating this collection of publicly traded companies now that are implementing that strategy. So now you have all of that. You now have ETH ETFs finally getting some positive traction, finally getting some inflows. I don't remember. I apologize. I'm not going to give proper credit. I saw it on the timeline, so I'm stealing this from someone else. But they essentially said they quote tweeted some founder who was basically saying, "Oh, 15 years. What has crypto delivered? There's no real use cases." And the quote tweet was dunking on them. They're like, "Yeah, this used to fly for a TradFi founder, for a Web2 founder. They used to be able to dunk on crypto and they'd be fine. Now, at this point, it's like outing them in their intelligence or lack thereof. Like someone who's a CEO of a publicly traded company and doesn't understand crypto or think crypto has no use cases, they shouldn't be CEO of it. They don't have to put a Bitcoin strategic reserve up. They don't have to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, but to come out publicly and say, I don't understand what the hell, it's been 15 years and crypto has no use cases today. I wouldn't, like, if I held stock in that company, I'd be out. And I think we've hit this inflection point now where, yeah, maybe previously if a CEO comes out and dunks on crypto, they were getting applause from their shareholders. Now they come out and do that, they might be getting fired soon. Like it's outing them as like, oh, they don't get it. They're not connected to both the technological and the financial world to realize that whether they're on board or not, use cases are very real. The performance of Bitcoin, the store value is very real. And I think those that are that stance, I think we've shifted at a point where it's not even like, oh, they just don't get it. It's more like, oh, is this person capable of being a CEO if they don't understand any crypto use cases at this point?
Yeah, you don't have to you don't have to say like, we're going to go buy a Bored Ape strategic reserve. You could say like stable coins make sense and we can earn yield on money that we currently hold in addition to the way that we hold other types of reserves. You could look at, the way you could build a loyalty program. You could build all these things, and Bitcoin as part of a strategic asset that you would want to hold at least to a point, which I feel like it's been irresponsible not to hold it up until the point, because there was more of a tipping point a few years ago. And I think a lot of people who poo-pooed it, it's like, it feels like, like I still see people saying Bitcoin's going to zero and it has no value. And I think like there comes a point where you're the Japanese soldier still fighting World War II 20 years later and nobody knows and everyone's like, dude, the war ended. It's over. And like, I think that those things that you see from a lot of people and CEOs, it's like, maybe we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. And there's enough of a groundswell that it seems like it's well supported. So would totally agree with you on that. That said, I'm probably going to try to take a nap here because I got probably like 3 hours of sleep last night. Actually, like the thing that I had on Friday where I wasn't feeling well has kind of carried over. So I'm just kind of sitting here like haven't been feeling well all morning. Also got lax sleep. Also jet lagged from flying across the country to the West Coast. And I'll be in a different hotel tomorrow based on where we got to go and work on some stuff. So I'm going to just be a mess until probably Thursday, but I'm going to try to take a nap, maybe catch up on some Z's. Any other things you want to get out before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm going to go back because I did see the plasma cap. It was 500 million. I'm seeing now that they've raised the cap this morning. So I don't know if there was already 250 million raised and they only raised 250 million today, or if they raised all 500 million today. Either way, insanely impressive to do that in a couple of minutes. And the other thing that comes out of not just is it stablecoin season, I think ICOs are back.
What do you mean?
I think we're going to see more of these. This was an ICO. Like this was an opportunity to, it's like, Ethereum was the first great ICO, right? And then there was a run of the 2017 cycle was all ICOs and they all went up and then very few of them survived. And then we had NFT season. And I think due to like some of the regulatory uncertainty, like you saw teams go away from ICOs. I think we could be full on ICO season back. Whether they go the echo route or I need to put some more thought to it so I can get my thoughts in better words. And I don't want to even use Laudio as the example. But if you think about what we're seeing with InfoFi now, you saw that how they built so much attention pre-launch. Man, we're going to see a real business, maybe it's a stablecoin company, go to market with an attention push, with an ICO push. And yeah, I think we could see a lot more companies raise with the ICO model that they had went away from. I'm not an attorney. I'm not I don't deeply understand the SEC and all those rules and regulations, but I would like to know, like, other than Gensler not being there any longer and the I guess the mood and the what the administration is saying, I'm correct in saying like no laws have changed, has it? As it would relate to ICOs as being a fundraising mechanism. Like nothing's really changed. It's just that there was never any law, I guess, per se against it, so long as they weren't violating the Howey test. And now it's like, okay, I mean, is this just the effect of Trump dropping the meme coin, do you think? Is there more to it? Do you think we're actually going to, like the Clarity Act we were talking about, or Clarity Act, whatever the Stablecoin Act is right now, like, I don't know. I could be way off here. I just think whether we see actual regulation or not, I think we could see, like, I think this Plasma and the success they saw today, raising 500 million in minutes, I think a lot of other companies are going to look to go this route. Or maybe it's not exactly like Plasma. Maybe it's an ICO, but in the sense of like how Mega ETH did it, right? Where they effectively did an ICO with that mint, right? It was just you're buying a soulbound NFT that was getting you token allocation. I don't know. I really don't have anything else other than I think we're going to see a lot more ICOs. I think we could be heading into like ICO season 2.
I think success of them is going to be dependent. I think, like, to make an analogy to Ape Chain, Garga put out that post about sunsetting the DAO, and one of the points I made was like, they still fund builders, but there will be a higher barrier to entry for success. Like, there will be a higher, like, they're not just going to say you're going to wrap a BMW, you're going to make a giant gin and tonic. They're like, look, we're going to do this, and it brings money back to the chain, or value to the chain, or value to the ecosystem here. You're going to do something at Ape Fest that makes it a better experience. You're going to do something that brings value to Ape Chain. You're going to do something that brings value to the club. I think ICOs will follow a similar model, where this one seems to have a lot of hype around it because it feels like people were excited about this is very legitimate, and B-Check was super bullish on it, and I'm kicking myself for not doing more research and being ready for this thing. I just didn't do a great job getting into it. I saw picks through like $200,000 at it in USDC.
Congrats.
If it 5X's, he just made $1 million, right? And it's like, it's like if you could throw $20,000, that could be a massive win for someone. $2,000. So
I was trying to throw $2,000 at it today. I'm not in Pix's realm, but yeah, my plan was to throw $2,000 at it.
Yeah, no, it's legitimate, man. So I think like that's the I think that's where we're at with that. I think it's just I
don't know if I shared on someone clipped in a full, like 50 million was the max, and one whale clipped a full 50 million in it.
I mean, look, this is what I'm saying is, like, if something is that interesting to people and the valuation is that favorable, I had the chance to get into a pre-sale I'm not going to get into recently, where
but I guess what I didn't say is why I think it's coming back, and why I think it's going to be so advantageous, and why we're going to see more good, because now these companies aren't afraid to share in the upside. Like the idea of rev sharing and participating in some of that upside, like I think that's very real. And I guess we're not completely out of the woods yet, but I don't know. I feel like something's going to come soon. Maybe not. Maybe we don't see any positive regulation. Maybe nothing gets pushed through, but I think we're going to at least see more companies go that route, and then maybe they get slapped on the hand or worse later down the road. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like we're getting really close to a much more like fair and equitable and exciting investment landscape for all parties. You don't have to be a VC. You don't have to be an accredited investor. If you're paying attention, there's something you're excited about. Like, take a test, take a questionnaire. Like, I encourage everyone, go do the Echo thing. Go sign up for Echo and see the questions it asks you. Like, it's basic stuff that I believe almost every person here has the knowledge that they're asking of these individuals. Of like, it's just like, it's almost like elementary level investing questions. That you should have a basic understanding. You should know that there's no guarantee what you put in could go to zero. And I don't know, probably getting ahead of my skis because there a lot still has to happen, but I feel like we're a lot closer to how some of these businesses can build in public and bring their early supporters along. I thought we were there right on the doorstep in like 21, 22, and we were way too early. Now I think we're almost actually there.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's entirely possible. Businesses are seeing the opportunity to share with people who really support them. And again, barrier to entry is going to be higher. Like you're going to have some hits, you're going to have some misses, but it's not vaporware. It's legitimate platforms where you have opportunities. And like, yeah, I mean, stuff like this today are ones down the line where it's like I said, like I'm not on the level financially or influence wise to get into a lot of these things. I had one pre-sale I had the opportunity to get into, didn't like the valuation, didn't do it. But if those opportunities arise and they make sense, it's like, again, we know somebody who pushed pretty hard on Circle. They've gone from living in their car to being a millionaire. And so
real quick on that too. Also, by the way, just reminder how brutal this space can be sometimes. Where you hit a big win, life-changing win in this case, and number keeps going up, and you're questioning, did I make the right move? Like it's just like the emotional roller coaster sometimes when following a big win can be harder than not making the move and not buying the thing or not getting in early when you had the chance. Like sometimes that you take your win, you book your big win, and then it goes up another 20-30%. You find you see it often. I've done it. The individual we were mentioning, like we saw them, they were doubting, giving themselves a little bit of a hard time. Like, dude, you crushed it. You traded the Circle IPO better than 99.99% of people on this planet. Take the victory lap and don't be beating yourself up, because there's another timeline where there isn't the China-US talks today. The Trump Elon thing blows up and markets sell off 20% and Circle's $50 today, not 100 and whatever. So it's just, no one knows the future. You're not going to be perfect. Very, very, very hard to time tops. It was a good reminder to me to book wins when you got them. And it's like ice forward, both on a loss and wins. Sometimes book those wins, and you can't woulda, coulda, shoulda yourself to death.
Yeah, it's I mean, people run into this all the time, but it's like, yeah, you like at times it's like you just got to book the win and not look back. And there was one, I mean, God, I don't remember. I mean, with Dude and Laudio as examples, like people looked at me when I sold Laudio. They're like, I think this thing might have another legs into it. I'm like, I sold Laudio. I sold almost the top. I missed a little bit of upside. Magic Eden token, I sold and I missed like, 10, 15, 20% upside, but like it tanked after that. Like, and look, there's going to be opportunities that you mess up on. I sold and didn't stake my Kaido. It ran. I bought more, I got back in, whatever. But like, I think it goes to the earlier discussion we had where it's like, if you don't have an NFT that you're not connecting with, that you're not using the utility that you don't like and you don't love, and you look in your wallet and it doesn't bring you joy, sometimes those things are thousands of dollars and that money can matter. So I just think being thoughtful about how you do that, it's like booking wins are wins. So that's the way I put it.
Last thing, and I promise once you guys get out of here, ICOB said it better than what I was attempting to describe a few minutes ago. He says, in my opinion, the Plasma Instacap fill today is a gigantic beacon signaling meta shift. There's an immense amount of idle capital that wants to place bets on real products and applications that have a chance to do something meaningful. And it's never going to bid your stupid memes. I could not agree more, Steve. So like to double tap on what you just said, and that memes aren't going to, not only are memes not going to onboard the masses, I think there's a lot of us that it's just like, maybe we dabbled, maybe we played the game. It's just, we're not excited to go bid on memes. There's a lot of people that just aren't going to go bid on memes. He goes on to say, ICOs are officially back, and Sonar is likely the most impactful crypto native release of 2025 for the direction of crypto. Market structure build is the non-crypto native counterpart. Sonar is what, like the back end of Echo. So Echo is the platform. Sonar is like, I believe that's who I had to do like the KYC and stuff through. But anyways, I'll do deeper digging on Sonar so I can explain it better. But yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with this sentiment in this take here, that I do think this is a far bigger deal than just Plasma raising $500 million in minutes. I think this is a massive signal. And maybe it's not ICOs. Maybe both of us are wrong there, ICO Beast and myself. But this take that there's an immense amount of idle capital that wants to place bets on real products and applications that have a chance to do something meaningful. Double, triple tap that. They're never going to bid your stupid memes. Like, this is where, like, so it's not even these people are sidelined. Like they might be in Bitcoin, maybe they're in ETH, maybe they are in stables. I just think there's a lot of people here that have access to a lot of capital that want exactly this. Myself being one of them. I want to place bets on real people, real products, applications that have a chance to do something meaningful. And I think that the Signal instant fill to 500 million today is proof positive of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that is I think that is the I think like people misrepresent or misunderstand, like when somebody bets on a stock in the traditional world, they're buying the stock because they think the product is legitimate and has an opportunity. They're not buying a stock like based on like the vibes, right? And I know that that's how sometimes Tesla and other ones that are like growth stocks. I get that, but they're buying it based on future company opportunity and outcome. Like you didn't buy Amazon for vibes. You bought Amazon because you click a button and something shows up at your house the next day. So I feel like people are in this space. We are so insular in how we think about things. And I think, no, meme coins are not going to bring in the masses. Real applications do. If I want to go talk, if I go talk to my kids, their friends' parents, and I say, hey, do you want to buy this coin that just, you want it to go up and it's based on the vibes and the memes and it's a funny turtle that went viral? Or if I say to them, hey, there's this company that's building stable coins, which are going to build the base and the back of how we do online payments and make them better and make it so you can earn yield against them. And then you can trade them cross borders instantly. They'll be like, oh, well, that sounds like an interesting business. I would be interested in putting money towards that. And so I think that that's the differentiation here. It's not that the meme market doesn't exist. It's not that gamblers and people don't, but we vastly underestimate what the actual masses and the humans that exist in the world outside of our corner of the internet, what they care about and what they're interested in. Full stop. Anyway, that said, I know
I missed chat in the war room today. I'll catch up on all that now. My apologies. I will give our guy Phonics a shout out. He because he agreed with me. He says, where to go? I don't know. Basically, full any company that doesn't that would struggle to IPO is going to ICO if they plan to launch in the next 6 months. That just says there's way more of these ICO coming, and I think this.
And IPOs are a pain in the ass, man. Like IPOs, there's like a ton of regulatory. It's like, it was hilarious. I was talking stats about this where it was like, they were like, there are people who are like, oh my God, all these companies this is the new meta. Like these companies are going to start, all companies are going to start IPOing. I'm like, do you understand how incredibly difficult it is to do an IPO and what a pain in the ass it is to do an IPO? So I think like that's something that we'll see more regulatory action around for sure, because I think there's going to be more, ICOs is going to take get a lot more scrutiny. But like, I think people misunderstand how much of a pain and how difficult it is to go public and all the different people that need to be involved. And, Maggie sold us bunnies. It's just, so I think that it's more complex than that, but I think people get the point. But that said, let's send everybody off in their day. Appreciate everyone coming through this morning. We will talk to everybody bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time, 5 a.m. where I am. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks for tuning into Coffee with Captain, powered by ApeCoin. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember, nothing we discussed today is financial advice. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Welcome to the future.